the sovereign of the desolate sands. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101, Determination. December 15th, early morning. The night snow had just stopped, and the morning light was bright. A wooden fence was set up outside the martial arts arena of the Hong Mansion, and all the outsiders were cleared out. On the huge arena, there were only 5 people: Hong Li, Hong Shi, Hong Lai, Hong Fan, Zhang Yaod, and 2 outsiders. Go outside and block them, don't let anyone in. Hong Li signaled Zhang Yaod to guard outside the arena, and then said to a middle-aged official with a fair face, "Master Gongsun, everything is ready." The latter nodded as a courtesy when he heard this. This person was the Jinhe Wujian Gongsun Shi who came to visit with his men. Dahua Martial Arts Academy is responsible for supervising the martial arts and warriors of the world, and naturally it will not be indifferent to the newly created martial arts and killing methods. He came to visit today to evaluate the sand-flowing knife and desert sand armor that Hong Fan had used before. "Second Master, let's start with the sand-flowing knife," Gongsun Shi said to Hong Fan, pointing to the 3 human targets on the side. The 3 targets were all about 1.7 meters tall and made of hardwood. The second and third were wearing leather armor and steel armor respectively. Hong Fan didn't waste any words. He walked a few steps to the naked wooden target and stood still, with his left-hand sword finger raised horizontally. The true energy of the sand world was running. Under his feet, the snowflakes were instantly penetrated by the fine sand and disintegrated into discrete crystals. After a breath, the high-speed sand flow burst and pierced the heart of the target easily. The sword finger moved horizontally with a buzzing sound. When Hong Fan finished his move, a palm-wide gap had been opened in the 30-centimeter thick hardwood, and the snow behind the target could be seen through it. "It's easy, it's really extraordinary." Gongsun Shi took a step forward, glanced at the wound, and immediately said, "Next is the cotton armored target, second young master, please." Hong Fan didn't need to recover his breath for the second consecutive knife, but deliberately slowed down his steps. He almost immediately saw through Gongsun Shi's purpose. Continuous trial moves are a kind of stress test. 3 breaths later, the sand flow knife roared for the second time. After the same duration, the leather armor and hardwood were penetrated without any surprise. Gongsun Shi frowned slightly. Apart from the penetrating power, he was unable to obtain more information from the second test. Then the third time. Under the energy of 100 MPa, the steel armor was as fragile as a piece of paper. "Thank you, second young master." Gongsun Shi went forward and carefully examined the broken part of the chest of the steel armor, then turned around and said, "You are too polite, Wu Jian." Hong Fan smiled back and asked again, "Is it enough to determine the quality?" "Only 3 demonstrations are required." "Indeed, only 3 demonstrations are required," Gongsun Shi said seriously. "As for how much you can see from it, that is my business, of course. If second young master is willing to tell me the true energy circuit and practice methods, then I would be more than happy, but the martial arts skills are all the result of the hard work of martial artists, and are the best resources in the world. Although the martial arts academy is strong, if you force everyone to hand over their foundation, then you will be cut off from the world," Gongsun Shi said frankly. "Thank you, Wu Jian, for clearing up my doubts." Hong Fan nodded. "So the next step is the desert armor," he said, urging the sand world to put on the sand armor at a slightly slower speed than usual. Seeing the sand dancing wildly and condensing into a nearly 2-meter-high bright yellow armor in an instant, Gongsun Shi's eyes lit up. "It's said in the city that the second young master used this armor to break through the pass first, and treated the rain of arrows as nothing. Today I see that it is indeed extraordinary," he praised loudly, and stretched out his hand to suck an ordinary long sword from the weapon rack a few meters away. "Since this killing method is armor, it is mainly defensive. How about the second young master taking my 3 attacks? Please show mercy, Wu Jian." Hong Fan smiled modestly and took the initiative to step forward. There was a sound of wind. The long sword slashed at the shoulder armor, and the force was about the middle stage of the penetration realm, and it was easily blocked. Gongsun Shi did not let go, but just twisted his wrist suddenly. In an instant, the sword body that was passively bitten by the sand armor twisted like a twist and broke with a clang. "That counts as one move," Gongsun Shi said quickly, and at the same time sucked another saber from the weapon rack. Soon, 3 moves were over. Seeing Hong Fan dispersing the sand armor, Hong Li took the initiative to ask, "Master Wu Jian, how is it?" His speaking speed was obviously 3 times faster than usual. These 2 life-star killing methods are both exquisite. To be honest, I can't fully understand their beauty after just observing them 3 times. Gongsun Shi sighed sincerely, his eyes full of regret, and his intentions were obvious. This is a common routine in the martial arts school, which is often effective for young people who are not experienced in the world. But when he looked at Hong Fan, he found that the latter just looked at him silently, and his expression was 3 times more sincere than his. The routine failed, so Gongsun Shi had to give up. Although I didn't understand their beauty, there is no doubt that the sand knife and the desert sand armor are at least above the level of merit, he said. Hong Li's breathing was a little anxious. So, it is the 2nd grade, it is the 2nd grade, and at least the best among the 2nd grade. Gongsun Shi nodded heavily. If the 2nd young master can reveal more secrets, I privately speculate that the grades of these 2 killing methods may be able to reach a higher level. He tried for the last time. But Hong Fan was still unmoved. Creating a 2nd grade killing method at such a young age can certainly gain fame. But if he created a 1st grade one and created 2 at once, he would be afraid of trouble. On the side, Hong Li was very relieved to hear this. It should be the 2nd grade one. My Jinhei Hong family finally has a 2nd grade killing method. He paced back and forth for 2 steps. The more he looked at Hong Fan, the more he liked him. He almost wished that he had a daughter of the right age to marry him. Hong Li was also excited, but he couldn't show it too much in front of his elders. He only stepped forward and hit Hong Fan on the shoulder. After the 2nd grade killing method is completed, the courtyard will grant a subsidy of 500 taels for each set. 2 sets total 1,000 taels. After the supervisor reports it, it will be delivered to the mansion within 10 days. After Gongsun Shi finished his instructions, he declined the dinner and went back to the government office. Among the remaining 5 people, Hong Li was too senior, and Jian Yao was of a lower status, so they left one after another. So the lunch that was originally prepared was enjoyed by several young people in the Hong family. In the most exquisite wing of Mingshan Hall, the maid filled the wine glass and bowed and left. The 3 of them clinked their glasses and drank them all. You were the first meritorious in the Battle of Hongdao Mountain, and the clan rewarded you with 300 taels. This time the set price is another 1,000 taels, so it's 1,300, Hong Shi said. And the head of Fang Xianzong last time, Tisk, a full 1,800 taels, which is more than the annual salary of the city guard. He looked at Hong Fan with envy. Good farmland is 8 taels per acre. A small shop on Inning Street is only 40 or 50 taels of silver. This amount of wealth is enough for 3 generations to live a rich life without working. It is indeed a lot, Hong Fan agreed and took the initiative to pour wine for the 2 brothers. But in the hands of the nobles in Zijing and Shenjing, this money is probably just 1 or 2 pills. Hearing him say this, the 2 nodded and their envy faded a little. By the way, have you sorted out the spoils from the sea? Hong Fan raised his glass and asked. It has been sorted out and distributed last night, Hong Li replied in a low voice. He is the eldest son of Hong Li, and has a close relationship with his father, so he is the most informed. Except for those that cannot be valued in a short time, the total value of the goods is more than 60,000 taels of silver. This time, with the eldest master's help, our family will probably get 40%, and the Li and Qi families will each get 20%. The rest will be distributed by other families who have contributed, but don't spread this news, Hong Li added. The things that fly over the sea are all looted from the caravans of the wealthy families in Liangzhou. Many of the valuables have their owners, so they are not only difficult to circulate, but also easy to cause trouble. Chapter 102, Looking at Problems from a Developmental Perspective. The next day, December 16th. The night was falling. The morning sun rose from the east, and the black gold met, dyeing the sky rosy. 5 days had passed since the destruction of the sea. Hong Fan had completely transformed the essence of life plundered from the sand world into cultivation. By the 3rd cockcrow of the day, he had fully penetrated the 8th and 9th meridians, and opened 5 of the 45 major acupoints of the 10th stomach meridian of Foot Yangming. After completing his work, Hong Fan took another hour's nap before getting up. Wearing a light autumn coat, he first enjoyed breakfast warmed by a small stove in the main hall. After opening the door, He heard the regular sound of chopping wood and deliberately suppressed scolding from the side of the yard. It's only been 12 days, and you still have a bandage on your arm, and you have to succeed in this ability. This scolding was more distressing than harsh, and it was obviously Aunt Liu. Hong Fan couldn't help but curl his lips, went back to the house to get a wooden box, and walked along the wall of the house. I'm not trying to show off. I'm just a thin man with thin arms. If I don't do the rough work in the yard, who will? Tang Dage's voice rang out next. It was as rough as an old iron man buried in the soil for many years, but he dared to speak softer than Aunt Liu. Besides, I'm using one hand, deliberately avoiding injury. Hong Fan turned around the corner of the house and saw Aunt Liu's eyebrows raised and snatched the axe. Okay, after all, you have learned to talk back after chopping sand bandits. If I let you go out with a young master to see the world a few more times, do you still want to be a master in Zhuaiki? She pretended to be stern. Seeing that the woman was angry, Tang Dage didn't dare to say anything, so he just laughed foolishly. At this time, the two heard deliberately heavy footsteps, turned around and saw their young master. Young master, did we wake you up? Aunt Liu blamed herself, her face flushed, and she didn't know where to put the axe. Tang Dajie quickly stopped with a silly smile and stood up from the wooden stool. I'm a warrior, how can I be so delicate? Hong Fan replied, walking to the two of them and asking. Old Tang, how is the wound on your arm? It's almost healed. Tang Dajie grinned and deliberately raised his arm. But with Hong Fan's observation skills, he could tell that the other party was enduring the pain. It's healing a little slowly. He turned his head to look at Aunt Liu. And, did you take the medicine on time? Aunt Liu lowered her eyes and replied, I used it all. I'm not talking about the golden wound medicine from before, but the Duongsu powder that the master sent. Hong Fan kept asking. No one answered for a while. After a while, Aunt Liu saw that Tang Dajie wanted to speak, so she glared at him and said, that medicine is too good and too expensive. The housekeeper said that one box costs 50 taels. We servants usually do chores. It doesn't matter if the injury heals slowly. I decided privately to save the medicine for the young master's future use. Hearing this, Hong Fan shook his head and smiled bitterly. My dear aunt, why should I save this little thing? Didn't the clan give me 300 taels a few days ago? Yesterday, the quality of my new killing method was determined. In a few days, the Martial Arts Academy will give me another 1,000 taels. Hong Fan said to the two of them earnestly. Our life is better now than in the past, and it will be better in the future. We should look at the problem from the perspective of development. After the words fell, he glanced at Aunt Liu, who was in a daze, and Tang Dajie, who was scratching his head. For a moment, he felt like he was talking to Cow. Alice, and, I have to go to the clan to do some work now. If you haven't replaced the Duong Susan for Lao Tang by the time I come back, then you're forcing me to do it myself, Hong Fan threatened in a serious tone. Then he raised his hand, and several streams of sand jumped out of the ground, turning into flying blades and swirling in the firewood pile for several rounds. With a crackling sound, most of the remaining firewood that had not been chopped was broken into thin strips and scattered all over the ground. Half a quarter of an hour later, in the center of the Hong mansion, the 3-story Xiaoguang courtyard, which was exclusively for the clan leader. Hong Fan turned the corner and saw Chiuda standing at the door with his hands in his pockets and his neck shrunk. He had obviously been waiting for a while. Seeing the main person coming, the drooping eyebrows of Chiudaguang immediately stood up, and he rushed to greet him first. After a few greetings, the two passed a courtyard gate. Just as they walked through a corridor, they happened to see the door of the side wing opened, and then more than a dozen people of different ages came out. Several of them wore glasses, and some even carried abacus. Second young master, these are the managers and accountants from various families who came to calculate the harvest of Hongdao Mountain, Chiuda explained in her low voice. They came here 3 days ago, and they have spent the past few days at our house. It should be all sorted out now. Hong Fan nodded slightly, and saw 3 more people coming out of the room. The man in front had a beard and looked bored. He was his uncle Hong Ming. Behind him were 2 slightly haggard women, Hong Wu's wife, Madame Qing, and the first wife Hong Chen, who had not been seen for a long time. The people who came out also saw the handsome young man in the corridor, and heard Hong Ming's happy call Brother Fan, and immediately understood the identity of the visitor. So, more than a dozen people rushed up. Hello, second young master, I am Qi Wenbin of the Qi family, in charge of the family's household. Second young master, I am Kui Hong Zhuang of the Kui family, responsible for managing the family's shops, markets and other affairs. Second young master, Hong Fan, was blocked in the corridor for a while, but he couldn't move an inch. The courtesy these visitors showed him was even more solid than when they met Hong Ming, the fire-bearded king. These people are not Aunt Liu, and Hong Fan is not the only one in the world who looks at things from a development perspective. After the Battle of Taishan, he was already a rising dragon that everyone was paying attention to. After the detailed battle situation of Hongdao Mountain a few days ago was reported back, it not only confirmed his combat capability beyond the realm of penetration, but also made the name of Desert War Armor famous throughout the city. Now, no one in Jinhe doubts the potential of the second son of the Hong family. He not only has a higher attainment than his predecessors in the Fate Star, but also has an excellent talent for driving martial arts and power to fight at the same time. This is why the managers of each family are so attentive. In their eyes, Hong Fan is no longer a young upstart, but the second Jingsha Gong. Or it is more likely to be better than Jingsha Gong. Faced with this scene, Hong Fan responded calmly. "You are too polite." He put on a gentle and reserved smile, bowed his hands to return the greetings one by one, and took the initiative to step aside and ask them to pass first. After a while, the crowd walked out of the courtyard along the corridor. Hong Ming wanted to greet the outsiders, exchanged glances with his nephew, and hurriedly followed. Under the eaves of the corridor, Hong Chen could not avoid seeing Hong Fan. "Brother Fan, it's been a long time since we last met," she said, forcing a smile. "The last time was on the Victory Day in May," Hong Fan replied, without any embarrassment. "I didn't greet the eldest lady more often. It's my fault." He took the initiative to greet the two ladies. His posture and expression were the same as when he saw the stewards and accountants just now. There was no hatred or resentment. "I have an appointment with several elders, so I'll go first," Hong Fan spoke again, without any greetings, and walked straight past. Chiu De followed behind, his eyes watching his nose and his nose watching his heart, even breathing with 7 points of strength. P.S. At the end of yesterday's chapter, so many readers said that I was short. This needs to be discussed. In the last book, I updated 4,100 to 2,000 words a day. Now it is often 4,500 to 6,000, and sometimes 700 to 800. In addition, you should have noticed that although I don't have many words in each chapter, I will never add water. I will never add anything that will not improve the quality of the book. In terms of the big aspects, I will not write plots that are useless to the story. In terms of the small aspects, I will only describe the scenery when it is necessary to blend the scene, and it must be concise, preferably 1 line of words, and no more than 3 sentences at most, a lesson learned from the slightly more description of the environment in the previous book. In terms of combat, I will be relatively detailed, try to write the sense of picture and the logic of the disassembly and response of the moves, and use various rhetorical techniques to improve the reading coherence. So logically, it should not be short, right? Chapter 103, the situation changes with a person. As the footsteps faded away, Hong Chen tightened her sleeves but did not move. The bastard's words and actions just now were not rude, nor were they very respectful. But because of this, she became more and more angry, and after the anger, she felt deeply powerless. After the funeral banquet of Jingsha Gong, Hong Chen had thought of many ways to deal with Hong Fan, and made many plans in turn. Unfortunately, the last one could not be used. Because Hong Fan's momentum rose too fast, too fierce, and too strong, she could never keep up with the changes. Now, her personal destiny is deeply tied to the Hong family. Hong Chen asked herself, if the Hong family is missing her now, it's nothing more than having one more buffet, but if this bastard is missing, I'm afraid they will be looked down upon by the outside world. Such a younger generation has long been beyond the scope of the secret means of the backhouse. Sister-in-law, Hong Wu's wife, waited by the side, and asked softly after Hong Fan walked away. "Nothing," Hong Chen shook her head and replied. Thinking of Hong Fan's calm and composed attitude just now, she sighed again. The foal of a tiger and a leopard has already had the courage to eat cattle before it has grown into pattern. Brother Fan has a promising future and will be able to help his brother more in the future. I am naturally happy. As she spoke, she walked out. She stumbled and bumped her shoulder against a pillar of the corridor. On the other side, Chuda passed the first courtyard and couldn't help sighing. "What's wrong with the housekeeper?" Hong Fan asked curiously. "I just sigh that the second young master is an extraordinary person who can accomplish extraordinary things," Chuda replied. What do you mean? Hong Fan asked again. Chuda organized his words for a while before speaking word by word. For more than half a year, the second young master has made breakthroughs in cultivation and achieved outstanding results. This is one of them. Hong Fan raised his eyebrows and did not comment. Chuda then continued to speak. After Filong was in the sky, the second young master showed his tolerance and did not bring up the past. This is the second. After saying this, Hong Fan smiled. Only those who are broad-minded and do not care about worldly affairs can live a carefree life. As the ancients said, the environment changes with people. The more you get entangled in the muddy bushes on the roadside, the muddier and harder the road will be. It is better to have a longer vision and take faster steps. After a few words, the patriarch's study was in front. Chuda was silent for a moment and suddenly said something from the bottom of his heart. It is a blessing for the family to have the second young master, butler. You are too kind. Hong Fan smelled the aroma of tea medicine wafting from the door of the study and shook his head. Joining the Hong family, it is my blessing. In the study, tea was already brewed, and Hong Jian and Hong Li were present. Hong Fan exchanged a few greetings with the two elders and sat down opposite the tea table. Hong Li also naturally heated a cup and filled it for his nephew. There have been a lot of things going on in the clan these days. He stroked his white beard and said with a smile. You want to see us now? It must be something important. It is indeed something important, Hong Fan replied, turning his head to look at the door and window. Hong Jian saw his intention, closed his eyes for a moment and then said, besides us, there are only 2 servants at the back door of the third entrance in the courtyard. Don't worry, Hong Fan nodded gently, opened the wooden box he brought, took out an oil paper package and put it on the table. In front of the 2 elders, he peeled off the outer package layer by layer, revealing a stack of papers inside. The official bills of the Ministry of Revenue, guaranteed by the Martial Arts Academy and the Weaponry Bureau, 100 taels of pure silver, a total of 150, Hong Fan finished speaking in one breath. The atmosphere in the room immediately solidified, not to mention Hong Li. Even Hong Jian, who was the strongest in the Golden Sea, was stunned for a moment. Hongdo Mountain, where did it come from? Hong Jian and Hong Li said almost at the same time. It was indeed found in a cave in Hongdo Mountain, Hong Fan replied frankly. I was wandering around with Hong Li and Shen Hong at the time, but when we got to the cave, we found something strange about a stone wall. The sand world sensed the gravel trapped inside the rock. After a careful inspection, there is indeed a hollow mechanism in the stone. This floating wealth came from it. After hearing this, Hong Li was silent for a moment before he completely digested it. Long Chi Xingjin, you are indeed very lucky, he sighed deeply, and his face was filled with joy that he could not suppress. In this war, the Hong family only received a total of 30,000 taels of wealth, and this amount of money was equivalent to an extra half. Even for the entire family, it is a huge sum of money. Among the children of my family, only you are as cautious as you, so that after receiving such a sum of money, you can wait until each family has divided the wealth and property without leaking a single drop before making any arrangements. Hong Li sighed again and again, looking at Hong Fan's normal expression, and suddenly asked curiously. But this is a full 15,000 taels, 15,000 taels that no one knows about. Are you willing to just give it to the clan? Hong Fan heard this and laughed heartily. Although Fan is young, he also has a sense of importance. He spoke lightly and casually. It's just a little extra money, but my uncle used the word willing to give up. You underestimate me too much? Hong Jian nodded slightly, with an expression of approval. Hong Li was suddenly moved. He took the initiative to raise his cup, and solemnly offered tea to the younger generation. Hong Fan took it respectfully, took a sip, and continued. 50 of these banknotes are old and new, but there are another 100 with consecutive numbers. I guess this money is related to Hishang Fei's provocation to us. Hong Jian checked the banknotes and found that it was true. His expression finally became serious. Then, he saw the bastard take out another thing from the wooden box. In fact, the second thing I took from the stone coffin may be more important, Hong Fan said, holding a glass bottle in his palm. The 2 elders looked at it and saw scarlet blood in the bottle. When it was shaken, golden stars appeared, which were gorgeous. It doesn't look like an ordinary thing. Hong Jian took the blood bottle, looked at it for a moment, and frowned. The bottle was passed to Hong Li, who looked at it carefully and opened the bottle cap to smell it, and shook his head. It may be the blood of an exotic beast. Or a special treasure. Maybe we can ask Master when, Hong Jian said. The Instrument Works Department has the most complete documents on rare objects. That's what I mean, Hong Fan agreed. The three of them were very executive people, and they made up their minds to do it immediately. After more than half an hour, the people arrived. After studying for a long time, Wen's Hongwen spoke cautiously. Wen has some guesses. This bottle of stuff is likely to be Dragon Air Essence blood. Hearing this name, Hong Li and Hong Fan didn't react much, but Hong Jian frowned. Dragon Air Essence blood? So this is the blood of the royal family? Hong Jian asked solemnly. It's only possible, Wen's Hongwen replied, explaining to the others. It's written in the documents of the Weaponry Bureau that human blood is red, and dragon blood is golden, and the blood of the human race that has been granted by the ancestral dragon is red blood gilded with gold. The better the talent, the more golden it is. The Zhao imperial family, which has been in power for more than 300 years, is naturally the best among them. It is said that the blood of the king of the mountain is not red with gold, but gold with red. He thought for a moment and added. In addition, Wen has also heard rumors that the blood of the dragon heir is extremely precious and is a top-level martial arts resource. It can change the physical constitution and bones, but it requires special methods of use. This is very likely the reason why He Shangfei suddenly went crazy. Chapter 104, Rebellion. Hearing this, Hong Fan had some guesses in his mind. The name of the Dragon Soul Tree was not chosen by him, but it came to his mind naturally at the beginning. As the name suggests, it is very likely related to the Dragon Clan, or the ancestor dragon. Now combined with what Wen Hongwen said, it is very likely that the dragon blood in the glass bottle gave birth to the Dragon Soul Fruit. Based on this, the two mysterious Wudang riders can also be explained by the Dragon Soul Tree's induction. They also have dragon blood. So the one who instigated the sea attack may be the royal family, Hong Fan whispered, feeling quite absurd. Liangzhou ranks low among the 9 states, and Jinhe is even the border of Liangzhou. What qualifications does such an ordinary small city have to provoke those born nobles? No one answered for a while. Wen's Hongwen hesitated for a moment, glanced at Hong Fan, and finally said what he thought. The person behind it may be surnamed Zhao, but he may not be a royal family. Have you ever heard of the 13 Kings Rebellion? He glanced at the 3 people and saw that they all shook their heads. More than 200 years ago, in the 11th year of Xian Shen, the world was in chaos. 13 princes of the Zhao clan joined forces to rebel, and even the 2 imperial martial saints were involved. The war lasted for several years. The Shun emperor who was in power at that time passed away, and the lineage was extinct. It is said that the Zhao clan in Shenjing lost more than half of its members. The lineage of the Xuan emperor who is in power now was a branch at that time, so it was able to ascend to the throne. At that time, the 3 surnames of Yi, Hao, and Feng supported the new emperor and worked together to quell the rebellion. Only then were they granted the title of princes for their unprecedented merits. Wen's Hongwen paused when he said this. Although these things are not forbidden, they are still quite sensitive. I also happened to see the records in the prison when I was in Zhaijing. Hong Jian and the others understood what he meant, and immediately assured, Master, don't worry, we know the pros and cons. Wen's Hongwen nodded and continued. The 13 kings ended up in a tragic defeat, but not all of the Zhao clan members who plotted rebellion surrendered. I even heard that they have caused a lot of trouble in the past 200 years, so the things in this bottle may have come from them. After hearing this, Hong Fan exhaled deeply, and was obviously under pressure. He knew that the people who targeted Jin Hai and himself were most likely not some random people, but he never thought that they might be former royal family members. The Zhao family handed down the Purple Sky Dragon Transformation Sutra. According to the rebellion era mentioned by Wen Hongwen, the country had been established for 100 years at that time. Even if all the 13 kings were defeated, the foundation and strength possessed by their descendants would certainly far exceed those of the small frontier city tyrants. Sir Wen, how sure are you about these judgments just now? Hong Li asked in a deep voice. It's just a guess, I dare not say it's certain, Wen's Hongwen replied. I have never seen the blood of a dragon heir before, I am just following the map. This is a serious matter. I suggest sending this glass bottle to Zhaijing and handing it over to the provincial government for inspection. The distance between Jinhe and Zhaijing is 1,200 miles, and it takes about a month for a carriage to travel back and forth. There will be results in late January next year. This approach was exactly what Hong Fan wanted. However, just as he was about to speak in agreement, he caught a glimpse of Hong Li's hesitant expression. Hong Fan immediately realized what his uncle was worried about. Wen's Hongwen had previously stated that the blood of a dragon heir was extremely valuable and was a top-level martial arts resource. If this news is true, and this bottle of blood is indeed dragon blood, then how can we guarantee that it can be taken back after it is sent to the Liangzhou Weaponry Bureau? After all, Hong Li didn't know that the essence in the bottle had been taken by the Dragon Soul Tree. Sure enough, after hesitating for a moment, he asked, "Master Wen, if this thing is really the essence of the dragon heir and can change the body constitution, can it be returned to my Hong family at that time?" "To be honest, I dare not guarantee it," Wen's Hongwen replied frankly. "Zhuang Daijian is an upright person and will definitely not covet this little thing, but the people below are not sure. My identity as a master craftsman is really not very important in the state. However, if it is sent in the name of Hong Fan, it should be better." He obviously took into account the relationship of Zhuang Liren's previous handwritten reply. Just when Hong Li was hesitant, Hong Jian spoke. "Please help me, Master Wen. As long as there is confirmed news, it will be good. As for whether the things come back or not, it is secondary." The clan leader made a decision, and Hong Li did not say anything. "My lord trusts me so much, I will not fail my mission." Wen's Hongwen carefully put away the glass bottle and promised solemnly. At this time, Hong Fan said again, "Master, I have some new achievements recently, which are about fitting polynomials with known multiple points. I named it Lange interpolation formula and have written it into an article. Why don't you send it to the State Department together with this bottle?" Wen's Hongwen was surprised and happy. "Great, you know how to keep a low profile at such a young age? Go and get it." After a while, Hong Fan took the paper back. Wen's Hongwen couldn't help but start to study it, sighing again and again. "With your masterpiece accompanying, the chief supervisor will definitely pay attention to this matter." He read it hastily and had a rough idea of its value. His eyebrows were full of uncontrollable joy. "In this way, I will go back to the government office now and order Zhu Jingfu to prepare. I will take the things with the team to Zhaijing tomorrow." Wen's Hongwen was about to get up, but was stopped by Hong Fan. This time, the latter took out a silver note with a face value of 50 taels from his arms. Seeing the puzzled faces of several people, Hong Fan explained, "It takes half a month to go from Jinhei to Zhaijing one way. If Zhu Sijiang leaves tomorrow, he will not be able to come back for the new year. Please pass this little silver to him, so that he can have more good wine and food on the way." Just as an apology, Sijiang's annual salary is 200 shi, equivalent to 100 taels. This silver note is already Zhu Jingfu's income for half a year. How can it be more than just more wine and food? Wen's Hongwen was stunned when he heard this. He looked at Hong Fan's overly young face, and his copper bill-like eyes suddenly showed frustration. Hong Fan, if I had your meticulous thoughts, I would never have been driven to Jinhei." 3 days later, December 19th. Noon. It snowed for 2 days in a row, and each store on Chisha Avenue sent out shop assistants to sweep the snow as usual. 3 large shops away from Jiaotong Hall is the Kui family's earliest and largest blacksmith shop, Duanshan Hall. In the lobby, 3 young men were discussing with a steward. "Steward Zhang, I want to make a goose feather knife." The young man in the lead had a square face and a regular smile. His name was Yang Yingxin, and he was a disciple of the younger generation of Fian sect. The knife is 4 feet long, 1 inch wide, half a finger thick, and has a reverse blade on the tip. Steward Zhang nodded and smiled. "This is your sect's iconic weapon. I knew it as soon as I heard it. I will find a first-class master to forge it using the steel pouring method. After a discount, the price is 3 taels, and it will be available in about 4 days. How about it?" Yang Yingxin did not agree immediately, but asked casually, "Is young Master Kui in the shop today?" Chapter 105 Connections. "How would we know about the young master's affairs?" Manager Zhang replied, and then asked seriously. "But if you need to ask the young master, I can go to the back hall to ask." "Oh, that's not necessary. It's just a small matter. Why bother him?" Yang Yingxin shook his head. "I just suddenly remembered that I haven't seen young Master Kui for a long time, and I just wanted to ask." He waved his hand. "Manager Zhang, I wonder if Master Deshu has time recently. I want to trouble him for this knife." Master Deshu's surname is Chu, and he is one of the 3 sword forging masters of the Kui family. Dahua weapons are divided into 4 grades: heaven, earth, black and yellow. No matter how good the things made by ordinary old blacksmiths are, they are just not up to standard, but the 3 masters of the Kui family can forge 4th grade yellow weapons. Manager Zhang's smile was slightly reduced. Young Master Yang, Master Chu is very busy and his schedule is very full, and he doesn't take every order. Warriors choose weapons, and masters also choose owners for weapons. His smile remained warm, and his eyes looked deeply at Yang Yingxin. It was not until he saw that the other party was a little embarrassed that the manager continued to speak. But you are the best among the 7 generations of disciples of Fian sect. At the age of 20, you have already mastered the 6 paths of cultivation. I think Master Chu should be able to squeeze out time, but the price must be at least this amount. Manager Zhang unceremoniously held up 4 fingers. 4 taels, the pretty girl next to Yang Yingxin asked. The manager lowered his head to suppress his laughter and replied, "Ha, you are joking, of course it is 40 taels. 40 taels? 40 taels for a goose feather knife," the girl gasped and her eyes widened. Junior brother Sha's knife only cost 9 cents of silver. I think it's pretty good. She pointed to the long sword with a sheath on the waist of the junior brother next to her. This time, Yang Yingxin didn't wait for the manager to say anything. Junior sister Chi, Manager Zhang gave a fair price. His smile was forced. Junior brother Sha bought the standard goods made by an ordinary blacksmith. How can it be compared with Master Deshu? He was more like persuading himself than explaining to his junior sister. While Manager Zhang was watching silently, 2 people came out from the back hall. The young man wore a jade belt, and the middle-aged man wore several iron rings. They were all dressed in brocade and silk, and looked very imposing. The shopkeepers and servants all bowed and greeted him. Yang Yingxin recognized the visitors as the second master and the eldest son of the Kui family. Mr. Kui, we met last time in Tinghe Pavilion. He gritted his teeth and took the initiative to step forward and greet him. When Kui Yudang saw the outsider, he instinctively smiled. He was obviously not familiar with the person in front of him, and after a little thought, he remembered the other party's identity. "Ah, you are young Master Yang from Fian Gate." With this, Yang Yingxin's back straightened half an inch. "Manager Zhang, young Master Yang is my friend, please pay more attention to him. Yudang has something important to do today, so I'll leave." Kui Yudang said a few words casually, and then followed the impatient second Master Kui to the door. With the words of the young master, Manager Zhang's attitude suddenly changed, and he went to the back hall to invite Master Chu out. Chu Deshu was about 40 years old, his left arm was as strong as an average man's thigh, and his right arm was even longer than his left arm. He was arrogant, but it was not difficult to communicate with him. After a few words, the two discussed the details, and Chu Deshu returned to the back hall on the pretext of being busy. It's settled, Yang Yingxin breathed a sigh of relief, full of the emotion of an experienced person. Junior brother Sha, junior sister Chi, senior brother has always told you that the most important thing in the world is connections, and now you have seen it. Young Master Kui is a top figure in Jinhe, and ordinary people can't make friends with him. You always think that after practicing martial arts and becoming a knight, you will never bow down to others, so you must at least have the status and weight of the eldest master of the Kui family. When he was teaching his junior brothers and sisters, a hoarse neighing came from outside. Several people looked back and found that Mr. Kui and young Master Kui had not left just now, but had been waiting outside the door. A strong and vigorous yellow horse stopped steadily, and a very handsome young man in black shirt got off the horse. Then, Yang Yingxin and others saw Kui from Hunrenjing took the initiative to come forward to greet him, and Kui Yudang, the top figure in Jinhe, rushed to lead the horse for the visitor. Hearing the two people talking about Brother Fan and Second Master, they knew the identity of this person. In the midst of the stars, Hong Fan and the two entered the door, and there was laughter. What a coincidence, my first horizontal sword was cut off by Fang Xianzong when I was attacked with Yudang at Taishan. He hugged Kui Yudang's shoulders affectionately. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the latter was obviously older, but he didn't feel embarrassed at all, and his smile became more and more enthusiastic. My second sword was broken when I fought side by side with the second master at Yixinshan in Hongdao Mountain. Kui Jiashu nodded repeatedly, as if the 4 words fighting side by side were a great honor. It was only after the second time that I realized the importance of a good knife. I had no choice but to trouble you. Kui Eri pretended to be angry and said, "How can it be called trouble? This is fate, it is the will of Zulong. It means that you, the second young master, should use my family's knife. Otherwise, if outsiders know that our Jinhei Xingjin does not use Kui's weapons, our business will be difficult in the future." The manager and apprentices in the shop, who had already stopped all their work, immediately laughed at the right time and served as a good background. At this time, Chu Deshu, who heard the excitement, also came out from the back hall. I was restless in the back hall just now. It turns out that the distinguished guest has arrived. From his kind smile at this time, Yang Yingxin could not find any arrogance. Brother Fan, you don't know that Master Chu usually forges in Tiantang. Today, knowing that you are coming, he gave up his work there early in the morning and came here to wait, Kui Yudang introduced. As Hong Fan solemnly thanked him, the atmosphere in the shop became even more lively. How dare Chu say that it's hard work to forge a sword for the Dragon of the Golden Sea? Why did the second young master mention money? Isn't this a slap in the face of queer? If it weren't for you, Brother Fan, who cut off the head of the broken steel dog and scared away the 7-step killing star, Kui Yudang, might not be alive. This is not enough to repay the favor. Several people surrounded Hong Fan and entered the back hall. The voice gradually became inaudible. In the deserted shop again, Yang Yingxin and others felt as if they were in another world. Young Master Kui is already a top figure in the Golden Sea. Does he need to curry favor with him like this? Junior Sister Chi tried to get rid of the overly handsome face in her mind, and murmured while looking at the still swinging door curtain. Yang Yingxin was stunned when he heard the words, and his face couldn't help but feel hot. After a moment, he finally replied. Kui Yudang is naturally the top of the Golden Sea, but the future of the Hong Mansion Star Lord is probably not something that the small Golden Sea can define. The voice was erratic, with a mixture of emotion and sadness. In the back hall, Chu Deshu explained forging to Hong Fan. The pig iron refined from the iron ore contains more carbon, is hard and brittle. The wrought iron after frying contains less carbon, is soft and tough, but a good knife must be both hard and soft, especially for warriors, because the user is powerful. Firmness and toughness are the first priority, and sharpness is second. Otherwise, once a martial artist with a thorough understanding uses it, one knife will be missing and both knives will break. Wouldn't it be a joke? So, Dahua now makes steel by pouring. It's the same for our Kui family. Chu Deshu didn't care about leaking the process, and explained it in detail. After melting the good pig iron, pour it on the wrought iron, and after several smeltings, the iron will be carburized into steel. After thousands of pouring, the steel can be made to the extreme, then bathe it in the urine of 5 animals and quench it in the fat of 5 animals, and then you can get a knife that can be used. Chapter 106 Shang Qi kills all. Hong Fan nodded seriously. In his previous life, he was an engineer and had some knowledge of materials science. The so-called Wanpi Kaiangun, Pi means folding, and Guan means carburizing. When quenched with livestock urine, the cooling is fast, which is convenient for the blade steel to form martensite, increasing the strength and hardness. When quenched with livestock fat, the cooling is slow, which can ensure the toughness of the blade steel. My Kui family's family-inherited Collapse Mountain secret emphasizes the uniform and stable burst of force, so our Beipi sword is equivalent to the Kaianpi sword of ordinary craftsmen, Chu Deshu said, taking out a horizontal sword wrapped in plain cloth, holding it with both hands and placing it on the table. But if you only know Wanpi Kaiangun, you can only be a first-class master at best, and make some inferior weapons. It's far from enough to be included in the 4th grade. He untied the white cloth, revealing the horizontal sword. The blade is 80 centimeters long, with a ring at the end of the handle, and a half-foot-long red brocade is tied on it. The blade is bright, but the blade is dull. This knife is made of tough steel and black iron, and the blade is burned by special methods. It is Chu's masterpiece. It should be considered medium among the 4th grade ones. Chu Deshu's tone was full of pride. Hong Fan took the horizontal knife, and it was indeed comfortable to hold, with the right center of gravity. Kui Yudang took out a raw iron bar for testing the knife, and he cut it in half with a casual chop. Please give this knife a name, Master Hong. Seeing that Hong Fan couldn't put it down, Chu Deshu bowed and asked. Shouldn't these be decided by Master Chu? Hong Fan asked back. My dear nephew, don't refuse. Master Kui smiled. Old Chu has made many 4th grade weapons in his life, but not many of them have become famous in the end. After all, since ancient times, the famous swords in the world are all famous for the sword holders, not the sword forgers. For example, Gu Yixin, the top of the Xianjiao list, only used a rusty gun picked up from an ancient battlefield, but who dares to say that gun is not a famous gun now? Chu Deshu nodded repeatedly after hearing this. That's exactly the reason, he agreed. When Mr. Hong becomes famous in the world in the future, maybe because of this sword, Chu Deshu can also leave a name in the history. At this point, Hong Fan could not refuse. He casually horizontally held the blade, and the mirror-like blade surface was so shiny that it could reflect people, as if the steel was coated with snow outside the window. Hong Fan inexplicably thought of Taishan during the hunting meeting. The wind and snow rolled down the sky, vast and boundless, covering all the towering mountains, but in a moment. "Let's call this knife white disaster," Hong Fan said softly. "As for the inscription, let's decide on the 4 characters." Chu Deshu was stunned when he heard this. "Why, is it not good?" Hong Fan asked in confusion. "It's not that it's not good, it's too good," Chu Deshu smiled bitterly. "The name of the sword is Bai Zhe, and the inscription is, 'This feels like it should be put on a real divine weapon of the 1st or 2nd grade. My sword is only a 4th grade, and it doesn't live up to this name," he said with a red face. But Hong Fan just laughed when he heard this. "Second Master just said that I agree. Since ancient times, famous swords in the world have all been named after the sword holders. If someone criticizes this sword and this inscription for not living up to its name, it's my fault, not Master Chu's fault." After this, Chu Deshu said nothing more, took back the horizontal sword, and went straight to engrave the inscription on the sword. 3 days later, December 22nd. Isahi Court. Hong Fan used Bai Zhe to slash the flying straw mat in the air. The sword returned to its sheath, swept onto the snow, and broke into 4 pieces. He had been practicing harder during this period, and had opened 9 major acupoints intermittently. Of the 45 acupoints of the stomach meridian of Foot Yangming, 13 have been opened cumulatively. In the Battle of Hongzhou Mountain, Hong Fan's contribution was second only to Hong Jian. But since the latter had been famous for a long time and was the best master in Jinhe, it was the former who gained the most fame and fortune. When he first returned to Jinhe City, even though Hong Fan had lived 2 lives and had a mature mind, he could not avoid being flattered. But after talking with Wen Songwen, the possible identity of the Zhao family behind the scenes brought him enough pressure. Knowing the appearance of the two, knowing their malice against him, and knowing that they were hiding in the Wudanki of the Li family. In order not to alert the enemy and to avoid exposing the existence of the Dragon Soul Tree, Hong Fan could not tell anyone about this news. Even Hong Jian and Hong Li. So he went to the Kui family to buy a Piao knife. So he redoubled his efforts in practice. 1 Dragon Soul fruit can boost the cultivation of nearly 2 regular meridians. If used at a critical moment, it can also repair internal and external injuries. Hong Fan looked inward at the swaying brilliant golden tree and calculated, I am still 3 regular meridians away from the realm of pureness, where my combat power has undergone a qualitative change, including the Dragon Soul fruit. It will take about 4 to 5 months. He made up his mind and took out some documents from the locked cabinet in the house. He used Bai Zhe as a paperweight and spread them out on the table in 3 rows. At the top of the white paper, 3 lines of simplified Chinese characters were written in charcoal. Feasibility study on strengthening the killing performance of sand fog. Feasibility study on adding power to sand glider. Further exploration on the combination of flame flow power and sand world. Under the article Sand Fog Killing Performance, the rules record many contents, including the true essence consumption of unit sand flow at different distances, the accuracy and power limit, and a predetermined name for a killing method, sand ephemeris. In the blank space, Hong Fan drew a charcoal pencil horizontally, opening a new experimental record column. True essence floated, and the deserted courtyard was soon covered by a sand fog with a radius of more than 10 meters. The killing standard is simple, but it is very complicated in practice. The loose sand fog is condensed into sand flow in a blink of an eye, and the frozen ground is dug an inch in a breath. This is the most basic requirement. After all, warriors are not the 2 wolf greens that Zhang Yaoke once raised. They don't have iron chains tied around their necks. They not only have hands, but also martial arts. After a few minutes, a round of testing ended. Even if all the progress in the Battle of Hongzhou Mountain is digested, the killing limit of the sand gnat is still only a radius of 3 meters. It is 3 times stronger than the 1 meter when the wolf green was suffocated at the beginning, but it is still within the range of close combat. If this move wants to have a real tactical position, the attack range must be at least 5 meters, Hong Fan frowned and said to himself. According to the progress of the Guantong realm, I have to reach the Hunren realm to do it, he concluded and recorded it truthfully, without any frustration. The second round of tests is about powered hang gliders. This is a trump card that is no weaker than the sand may fly. Flying is the yearning of mankind, and it represents absolute initiative in battle. According to Hong Fan's understanding, no matter what martial arts the Chinese people practice, they must reach the Yuanzi realm before they can offset gravity and fly freely. The only exception is the Feng family's Xiangang Shen Fangjing, which can glide in the innate realm for a long time. Of course, there are thousands of life stars with various abilities. Among them, there must be more who can fly in front of the Yuanzi. P.S. These chapters are transitional, and the pace will be slower. Chapter 107, Butchering an Ox. Based on the stronger true essence of the sand world, the area of the sand wing that Hong Fan can maintain is naturally expanded. If he does another cliff descent at the Taishan Call, he is 100% sure to do better. However, passive gliding lacks practical significance. First, it must rely on the drop to take off, and second, it is impossible to control the time of staying in the air. Without solving these two problems, no matter how good the control is, it is just a large parachute. The first solution that Hong Fan thought of was naturally the aerodynamic shape of the aircraft in his previous life, plus the engine. Due to his profession, he knows the structures of aircraft engines such as turbofans, turbojets, turboprops, and pistons. When he closes his eyes, he can immediately reproduce their turbine series, bypass ratio, mechanical structure, etc. in his mind. But the current level of sand and fire cannot support him to modify even the simplest internal combustion engine. Not only the precision, but also the limitations of high temperature and high pressure, the sand world itself has to maintain the body, and the consumption of the direct propeller is too great. Hong Fan thought, the only way to achieve it in the realm of force is to create an updraft. There are only two most common longitudinal winds. The first is the ridge airflow caused by horizontal wind encountering obstacles, mountains, and the second is thermal convection caused by temperature differences. Of course, he can rely on the latter, create an air intake at the front end of the glider, quickly heat up the air after intake, and then discharge it from under the wing. I can't maintain a precise engine structure, and I can't find high-energy fuel like aviation kerosene, but I have the power of fire flow, and it is obviously unnecessary to carry fuel and use chemical reactions to heat it. Hong Fan quickly recorded his ideas on paper, and a model immediately came to his mind. No combustion chamber is needed, and a micro-honeycomb mesh ventilation structure is formed with sand to maximize the contact area. The air heated and expanded by the high-temperature sand net can provide power and lift. Then he immediately began to experiment. The result was a failure as expected, but Hong Fan smiled instead. Many problems were exposed, including the area of the glider, the temperature of the sand net, the strength of the sand structure, etc. But these problems are in quantity rather than quality, and can all be solved by improving cultivation. In his estimation, the threshold may be the state of completeness. After updating several topics, Hong Fan invested some time in the sand blade and the desert armor to seek further optimization. At this time, a dog barked outside the door, and the courtyard door was creaked and pushed open. Aunt Liu and Tang Dajian, who came back from buying vegetables, lowered their voices quickly after entering the door, fearing that they would disturb the young master's thoughts. Soon after, the kitchen smoke curled up, and the aroma of food filled the air, making the sun set. On the same day, late at night, Li Mansion. The lights were still on in the study of the head of the Li family. Li Heming and Li Shenji were sitting there, with 4 teacups on the table, and 2 cups of tea were poured. At 10 o'clock in the evening, 2 figures easily avoided the attention of the guards and turned into the other courtyard. They were the 2 suspected Wudang riders. "Go open the door," Li Heming said, picking up the teapot and filing the 2 empty cups. Li Shenji turned around and opened the door, and sure enough, he saw the guests standing outside. People came in and the door closed quietly. The 4 people sat around, without red tape. Li Heming raised his cup, and the 2 visitors sniffed the tea, frowning slightly, but still drank a cup with him. "We arrived at Jinhei in the afternoon, and this time we met Mr. He for 3 things." Putting down his teacup, the young man with phoenix-shaped eyebrows spoke first. "The first thing is about the bottle of dragon blood essence." Li Heming's face sank. "You went back for the 3rd time, but still couldn't find it." "No, we have searched every corner, and only found a stone coffin mechanism, but it is empty inside." The phoenix-shaped eyes shook their heads. "It should be gone, because the 10,000 taels of silver notes we gave before are also missing." "Could there be something missing?" Li Shenji asked, but before he finished speaking, he was coldly glanced at by the 2 and stopped talking immediately. "Since the 12th and 13th masters said they couldn't find it, then it's gone." Li Heming nodded. But the bodies of the three leaders flying over the sea that day were all searched by Shenji himself, and there is no more hiding than in the cave. The two also agreed with this point. Given the preciousness of the dragon blood essence, Wan Guangji couldn't have kept it with him, the 12th son speculated. So I suspect that the thing is likely lost, and it is likely to be secretly hidden by the Huang family or the Qi family. Li Shenji felt a little pain when he heard this. Originally this bottle of blood essence was said to be his, but Li Heming's eyes were slightly fixed. On the other side, the 13th son spoke coldly. Humph, if Wan Guangji wasn't such a waste, Hongjian would have been kept in Hongdao Mountain by our secret method. The loss of a bottle of dragon blood essence is nothing to our Nanhou Zhao family, not to mention the casualties caused by He Shangfei. At least Hongjian's injuries have been confirmed, but the problem is that if they recognize the origin of the thing, our plan will be exposed. When the word exposed was mentioned, the atmosphere suddenly became serious. Especially the two people from the Li family. Li Shenji's palms were sweating. Li Heming used his true energy to sense the inside and outside of the courtyard again. So we have to speed up our actions further, and we must complete all preparations before March, Zhao Shizhen said in a deep voice, looking at Li Heming. How is the progress of the tasks assigned to Mr. He? He used a respectful title, but his tone was not very respectful. Half of it has been completed, and it will be completed by mid-February at the latest. Li Heming seemed to be unaware of it and returned to the matter. I am in charge of everything personally, and the executors are all the most core children of the Li family. There will definitely be no mistakes. That's good. The two Zayas looked a little relieved. It was obvious that Li Heming's words still had weight in their hearts. The last one is the plan of killing with a borrowed knife. Zhao Shizhen started to talk about the third thing. We have already passed on the news that the three families of Jinhe wiped out He Shangfei and seized a large amount of wealth. In recent years, the taxes on merchants in Huaiyang have increased, and bandits have proliferated. They have suffered heavy losses, and are now stretched to the limit. He Shangfei has robbed many of their caravans before. Most of the gold and silver you have recovered are their losses. Guangheng is narrow-minded, arrogant and stubborn. If we add fuel to the fire, they will definitely hold on to us to solve the urgent problem. As long as Hongjian is captured, Jianming Heli will be less. Once the big event is achieved, Jinhe City will inevitably collapse, and it is not impossible that the west of Liangzhou will be eroded, Zhao Shire said happily. The two brothers smiled at each other, as if they knew everything. They immediately looked at the father and son of the Li family. Li Shenji smiled in agreement, but his smile was a little forced, while Li Heming just sat upright on the chair, neither sad nor happy like a stone statue. The abandoned are like yesterday, and the dead cannot be kept. Seeing this, Zhao Shire tried to persuade them with gentle words. It's not a pity for the ignorant common people in a city. The Li family lost a corner and gained the whole world, which is a happy thing. He took out a document from his arms and unfolded it. The ink stains on it were fresh, obviously written not long ago. Li Shenji's breathing became rough. This is the innate part of the code of butchering an ox. Today, I will give it to the Jinhe Li family as promised. Zhao Shire looked at the eyes of the eldest son of the Li family glued to the paper, as if teasing a dog with a bone, with great interest. Compared with your family's Ruai Jin, this book not only includes the method of breaking through the innate 6 combination realm, but its true essence is also powerful and agile. Moreover, the code of butchering an ox even includes the 5 gates of Yuanzi, and there is a chance to break through to the heavenly realm. Zhao Shizhen didn't have the patience to listen to his brother showing off, so he grabbed the martial arts book and pushed it across the table. Li Heming took it silently with both hands. His face was normal, but the fingers in his sleeves couldn't stop trembling. Chapter 108 New Year's Eve. Mr. He, as agreed before, when everything is ready, we will hand over the Yuanzi realm part of the code of butchering oxen. Zhao 12 said with a smile. As for the Xianren part, it will be given on the day when Jinhe City is conquered. The collection that my Nanhou Zhao family lacks the most is martial arts techniques and resources. If this is accomplished, within 2 generations, the Li family will surely be famous all over the world. The words of the Zhao family son made Li Shenji's heart burn, and the reluctance just now disappeared in an instant. You too, after the Battle of Hongdao Mountain, the rift between Hongsheng and Hongfen has obviously deepened. Do I need to work hard? He took the initiative to propose, but Li Heming shook his head lightly. The 2 sons of the Zhao family laughed disdainfully. Shenji, when doing things, you should focus on the big things and let go of the small things, Li Heming taught. It's not that your previous method of concocting rumors about the exchange of legitimate and illegitimate children was ineffective, but it's meaningless to invest energy in Hong Sheng, what is the leader of the young generation of Jinhe? It's just the ignorant words of a sparrow. Where in the world is there a leader of the young who has not even reached the state of communication between heaven and man? He showed obvious emotions for the first time. It was real disdain. It's nothing more than a state of unity. When the big event is about to happen, one more or one less will make no difference, Li Humming concluded lightly. Mr. He has a keen eye, Zio 12 agreed. It's a pity that the false accusation of Feng Zihu failed at the beginning, otherwise, once the Hong family took drastic actions, with our influence, we could easily send their entire family to the 18th level of hell. That Hong Fan has grown too fast. He has only been in the Sand world for 9 months, and he can no longer be regarded as a penetrating state, Zio Shizan added. It's okay just for his personal combat power, but the key is that Ma Jingsha has not died for a long time, and the power of the Sand world is still there. I shouldn't have touched that Fang guy at that time. I should have killed him directly, he regretted. Why should I mind? 13th brother, Zio 12 held a teacup with his bare hands, and the icy energy of his fingertips froze the tea leaves in the cup into powder. There are plenty of opportunities to kill him, it's just a matter of time. 5 days later, December 27th, noon. The new year is approaching. Whether in Jinhe or Shenjing, every household is in the same festive and busy mood. Aunt Liu and Teo Hong cut a steamed rice cake into 4 regular rectangles. While it is still hot, pressed a few big red dates on it, and after cooling and shaping, they were offered in front of the tablets of the Bodhisattva and the lady. After several devout worships, she took the remaining corners of the rice cake, dipped it in sugar, and offered it to the kitchen god. The kitchen god will return to heaven during the new year. Aunt Liu was busy while teaching the new maid. After eating our sugar-dipped rice cake, his mouth will be glued shut. After he goes to heaven, he will only say good things and not bad things. Outside the kitchen, Tang Dajie and Liu Lu were busy stuffing sausages. Before long, a call came from outside the courtyard. Tang Dajie, the kitchen is on fire. Are you going to fry something? Wait for me, I'll be right there. Tang Dajie hurriedly answered loudly, wiped his hands on his clothes, picked up the fish, meat, tofu balls, etc. that had been packed in a basket beside him, and rushed out. For most places in Dahua, fried food is indispensable for the New Year's food. Therefore, the clan will uniformly supply oil every year, and designate 2 days to open the stove to help the clan members process the raw materials. This is both convenient and economical. In the entire Chori courtyard, there is only one person watching all this, still doing nothing and being lazy. The ground is covered with unmelted snow, and a reclining chair made of rattan is placed on the snow. Hong Fan, wearing only a single piece of clothing, lays on the rattan chair, squinting his eyes and watching Aunt Liu and the others busying around, and is drowsy from the cold wind. He has been practicing hard for many days in a row, and he hasn't been so relaxed for a long time. At this moment, the courtyard door was pushed open, and a sturdy young man in brocade clothes looked inside. Second brother, a call. Hong Fan looked in the direction of the voice and saw the face of Hong Ping, whom he had not seen for a long time. What's the matter? Come in and tell me. He yawned and shrank his neck. Second brother, I need your help with something. Hong Ping walked to Hong Fan and said anxiously. It's about my eldest brother. Your eldest brother? Hong Sheng. Hong Fan half lifted his eyelids and asked. What could happen to him? Since he came back from Hongdao Mountain, he has been practicing martial arts like a madman, Hong Ping said worriedly. I heard from my mother that my eldest brother has reached the last level of the 8th Strange Sutra in the Hunran realm, but he can't break through for some reason. 3 days ago, he locked himself in the killing courtyard and has not allowed anyone to enter until now. He hasn't even eaten a bite of food. Even my mother can't do anything about it. After hearing this, Hong Fan thought about it and roughly understood it. When Hong Sheng got into trouble, didn't you go to your father? He asked again without rushing to answer. I wanted to tell my father from the beginning, Hong Ping replied instinctively, but he felt that this was awkward. They clearly had the same father. But my mother wouldn't let me go, he curled his lips. She said it was a small matter and she didn't want to cause trouble for my father, but she was obviously very anxious. Hey, thinking too much and having too few solutions. This person is just worrying himself. Hong Fan sat up, sneered and shook his head. You are all martial artists at the peak of your powers. What's the big deal about not eating for 3 days? And my own mother can't do anything. Why do you come to me? He asked with a smile. Unexpectedly, Hong Ping replied very seriously. If it's you, there must be a way, and I always feel that this matter of my elder brother may be related to you, the second brother. He talked to himself, and was surprised to find that what he just said could easily cause misunderstanding. That's not what I meant. I mean, Hong Ping was in a hurry to explain, but was interrupted by his brother waving his hand. Okay, with your brain, how can you make me misunderstand? Hong Fan stretched his body, ignoring Hong Ping, who was like eating a fly, and got off the recliner. A few months ago, he was still very cautious about Hong Xin. Because this person was actually the third best master of the Hong family, the commander of the Zhuai cavalry, and the next generation of patriarch recognized by the clan. He had a name, substance, and power. Hong Fan was not afraid of him, but he did not want to offend him. Therefore, after there were rumors of exchange of legitimate and illegitimate children outside, he immediately took the initiative to find Hong Jian and Hong Sheng to communicate. In order to seek a united and stable internal environment, he even took the initiative to offend Zhang Fuqiu and Qi Zhenqi. But Hong Fan's subsequent progress was too fast. Jin Hei's first-class martial arts resource allocation, continuous battles, Beilu Dan. Up to now, the strength and momentum condensed in him are not much worse than Hong Xin. Therefore, he no longer cares about the latter's thoughts. Hong Ping, has Hong Sheng talked to you about anything recently? Hong Fan asked. No, I can only feel that he is very anxious, but I don't know what he is anxious about and why. Hong Ping sighed. Hearing this, Hong Fan couldn't help but chuckle. In an instant, many things flashed through his mind. Hong Li's teaching in the clan school, Hong Lai's martial arts performance in the parade ground, and Hong Ming's leading charge. As well as the family's great mediation when he was imprisoned, and the brother's full protection when he was charged. Hong Fan asked himself, he really didn't have much friendship with Hong Xin. But he couldn't turn a blind eye to Hong Sheng's matter. P.S. Some things that need to be explained must be explained. The next 4 or 5 chapters are relatively important contents of the protagonist line of the first volume, and then it will be the next big plot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109 Kilin. Hong Fan walked to the square table outside the kitchen, picked up a piece of cooled sugar-dipped rice cake and threw it into his mouth. Hong Ping, I heard that you have been doing well in the clan school recently, he asked, turning back after chewing until his teeth were filled with sweetness. Hong Ping stopped taking the rice cake and smiled brightly. Second brother, you know about it too, some small progress. It's nothing, just a new beginning. He turned his eyes away and deliberately looked at the snow on the courtyard wall, pretending to be indifferent. Hong Fan sneered, I mean you haven't bullied people in the clan school recently. Hong Ping's smile froze. This is indeed a new beginning. Hong Fan's mischievous smile bloomed. Of course, congratulations on your entry into the realm of penetration. He patted Hong Ping on the shoulder and turned to walk out of the courtyard. You go and have fun, I'll go see him. Kilin Courtyard is one of the best independent courtyards in Hong Mansion. Although the furnishings are older than Chori Courtyard, the area is even larger, and there is even a large clear water pond inside. This is the rarest luxury in the water-scarce Western Liangzhou. When Hong Fan arrived, the gate of Kilin Courtyard was closed. Only 2 servants, a man and a woman, were sitting on the steps outside the gate, with cold food beside them. They were people from Hong Sheng's courtyard. Hong Ping came to see me. How is he? Hong Fan approached and asked. Second young master. The 2 hurriedly stood up and saluted, looking very haggard. The eldest young master hasn't come out for 3 days. He doesn't eat or drink, and he refuses to open the door. Hong Fan nodded and said, it doesn't matter. People who practice martial arts are actually similar to turtles. They won't die even if they shrink their heads for a long time without eating, drinking or moving. There's nothing for you to do here. Go away. I'll go in and take a look. He waved his hand and drove the 2 away. The maid of Kilin Courtyard was halfway there, and originally wanted to remind the eldest young master to bolt the door. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she saw the second young master leaping directly over the 10-foot high wall. The eldest young master hasn't agreed yet, Isn't this a bad idea? She was stunned and murmured. But the servant next to her just pulled her away. We are brothers. Why do you have to worry about this? It was very cold in Jinhae City at the end of the year. The Kilin courtyard surrounded by 3-meter-high walls was no different. Hong Fan had not landed in the air yet, but he had already seen where Hong Sheng was. There were snow seeds in his messy hair, and he was sitting cross-legged in the middle of the completely frozen pond. This is the first time I see you like this. Hong Fan landed easily and walked towards the pond. His eyes swept over Hong Sheng from top to bottom, and saw the latter's haggard face, uneven stubble, carbonized cuffs, and multiple slightly burned palms. It was obvious that he had been practicing for a long time and used his true energy too much to hurt himself, even though he was sitting on ice. After all, you can't write 2 Hong characters with one stroke. Hong Fan stopped by the pond and teased. 9 months ago, I almost killed myself like this. Hearing this, Hong Sheng didn't even raise his head, but just laughed. Are you here to laugh at me? His eyes were red, and his face was colder than the ice beneath him, as if he had seen the dagger that was revealed after the picture was finished. Laugh? How can I have the leisure to play house? Hong Fan shook his head. The world is like a burning house, and troubles can never be burned out. I came to comfort you. He stood proudly with his hands behind his back, looking down at his half-blood brother. Comfort me, Hong Sheng sneered. How to comfort? He asked himself and answered. Say that my talent is far superior to yours? Say that I am the leader of the younger generation of Jinhae? Say that I will definitely become a congenital in the future, or that you will never seek power in the clan, the position of clan leader. Hong Sheng spoke intermittently, and at the end he couldn't help laughing loudly. But his fists were clenched so tightly that blood oozed out of the burns. No, Hong Fan replied, his voice light and relaxed. I am good at lying, but lying is a very tiring thing. I don't have to face you. Hong Sheng's eyes shot over. Hong Fan looked at his clenched, cracked lips and spoke seriously. Brother Sheng, I will definitely surpass you. My combat power will surpass yours. My cultivation will also surpass yours, and other attached fame, power, and popularity are of course not to mention, and this comprehensive surpassing will be easy and faster than you think. The words stopped. Kilin courtyard fell into dead silence. Hong Sheng's chest rose and fell violently, and his teeth trembled. Is this your consolation? Is it time to persuade me to accept it? White air floated under him. This was because the excessively intense emotions triggered the flame flow and sublimated the ice. Why do you think so? Hong Fan asked. Do you need to ask why? Hong Sheng laughed in anger, and was actually a little hysterical. But the more he laughed, the less he could laugh. Because from Hong Fan's eyes, he could not find any provocation or ridicule. Only sincerity and seriousness. Do you still remember the poem when the 4 lists were released last time? Hong Fan asked suddenly. Hong Sheng blurted out, remember today's ambition to reach the sky, and promise to be the best in the world? Hong Fan shook his head. I'm talking about your quatrain, he said and chanted in a low voice, 20 years of hard work. I can see the blue sky in my fingers. A man is determined to open the gate of heaven, and there is a new chapter on the Shyante. A sigh. Hong Sheng, you are not unable to see yourself clearly. Hong Fan smiled again. Your talent is the best in Jinhae today, and no one can approach it. Everyone praises you as a unicorn. You are only 21 years old, and you are only one step away from the peak of Unren, very close to the Xianjiao list, but also very far away. You are actually doing very well. You are so troubled, not because you can't see yourself clearly, but because you can't see me clearly. Hong Fan raised his chin slightly and asked again. What am I in your eyes? The words continued, without waiting for Hong Sheng to answer. Forget my name. Forget the Hong Fan you have known for more than 10 years. I am the master chosen by the Sand World. My destiny star talent far exceeds that of Ma Jingsha. I am a mathematical genius recognized by the weapons supervisor. I spent 9 months to improve a whole martial arts realm. I have a delicate mind and tough meridians for practicing both martial arts and destiny stars. I have the combat power of the quasi-comprehensive realm in the Guantong realm. I am a snake or a dragon, a sparrow or a phoenix. Hong Sheng was stunned by the question. He opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but it seemed that his heart was blocked and he couldn't utter a word. You are upset because I will surpass you? Are you worried that I will be supported by everyone and take the position of the clan leader? Hong Fan couldn't help laughing. Have you ever worried about Liu I and Cao Yuan like this? Have you ever worried about gun leader Gu Yixin like this? Have you ever worried about Iron Palm opening Mountain Dew in Cheyenne like this? His voice gradually became louder and his smile became more and more wild. Aren't you worried about them? Hong Sheng felt that Hong Fan's gaze turned into a sword, piercing his eyes and piercing his heart. Hong Sheng, why aren't you? Chapter 110 Gratitude. Hong Fan stepped onto the ice, approached Hong Sheng in a few steps, and said in a low voice. People who only see Jinhe City want to write a new chapter on the Cheyenne, Hong Fan asked softly. Isn't it ridiculous? Looking at Hong Sheng, who was stunned, Hong Fan shook his head in disappointment and turned to walk out. Hong Fan, are you worried? Finally, a trembling question came from behind. Are you worried about Cao Yong and Gu Yixin? Hong Fan stopped and turned his head halfway. On his side face was a domineering smile that Hong Sheng had never seen before. Do you think I will take them seriously? Hong Fan asked back. At this moment, what supported his answer was not only the Sand World and the Dragon Soul Tree. It was also his experience in 2 lives and the solid knowledge he had accumulated after studying hard for more than 10 years. This was the genuine golden finger given to him by the time travel. Hong Fan took another step. Behind him, the panting sounded like a bellows, gradually becoming heavier. Just as he was about to reach the door of Killing Courtyard, he heard a hoarse shout. Hong Fan, you will definitely be on the list of Cheyenne Jiao. Hong Fan turned around and looked at the frozen pond. On the ice, Hong Sheng used his hands and feet to try to get up. He failed twice in a row because his legs and feet were numb from sitting cross-legged for too long. His face was already full of tears, but he still didn't care. I can do it too. I can do it too, the Hong family's Killen's son sobbed, and finally stood up tremblingly under the gaze of his half-brother. Just like the day when the results were announced in Tinghe Pavilion, with a red face, he took on everyone's attention. I heard it, Hong Fan nodded in response. Then hurry up and wash up and eat. You can't be a Cheyenne Jiao if you are hungry. The wooden bolt behind the door was removed. Hong Fan opened the door with a squeak and stepped over the threshold. He met the palace-dressed woman at the bottom of the stairs. Madam, Hong Fan greeted Hong Chen, whose eyes were red and she was wiping tears with a handkerchief, and was about to leave. Then he was called. Brother Fan, staring at the handsome young man in front of her, Hong Chen, with mixed feelings, didn't know what to say. She used to hate Hong Fan. Hated his fair skin, his delicate eyebrows, the kind of hatred that made her hate him and her family. But now she was very grateful, grateful from the bottom of her heart. She was grateful, but didn't know how to express it. Power, money, resources, fame. In just half a year, Hong Fan already had more than her. So, the only thing left was words. Thank you, Hong Chen choked. Brother Fan, thank you, the one who tied the bell should untie it. Madam, you are welcome. Hong Fan put on an impeccable smile on his face. We are all Hong family, it should be. His voice was warm and his expression was sincere, making it hard to tell whether it was false or fake. It was almost noon, and the sun had risen into the sky. The warm and gentle sunlight shone down, embracing every inch of the earth equally. The 27th year of Zheng, New Year's Eve. Just yesterday, the Hong family welcomed a great event. The eldest son, Hong Sheng, successfully broke through the 24th acupoint Chengjiang of the 8th strange meridian Ren Mai, opened up the Ren and Du meridians, and officially reached the peak of the realm of strength. After that, he needs to draw the innate key into his body, achieve the realm of heaven and man, and then climb the ladder to the heaven, transform the true key into true essence, and step into the innate. Only in this way can he have the foundation to be ranked among the geniuses of the time. Hong Sheng's birthday is at the end of January, so he still has 3 years and 1 month. At 4 p.m., Hong Fan put down 10 pounds of good meat and 8 feet of cloud brocade and came out of Tian Liu's house. Tian Liu, the middle-aged head of the city guard's government office, after Feng Xiaowu's incident, he would ask Aunt Liu to send festival gifts every time. Now it is the end of the year, so it is naturally more solemn. As for the more important Hong Li, Wen's Hongwen, Jin Hong, and his comrades in the red-clothed cavalry, Hong Fan had visited them in the past 2 days. All the gifts together cost 100 taels of silver. As the saying goes, when money gathers, people scatter. When money scatters, people gather. He understood this truth before he entered the workplace. A quarter of an hour later, Hong Fan returned to his house and first went to personally add a meal to Honky and Bentley before returning to Choryuan. When he arrived at the gate of the courtyard, he met Huang Ping, who had been waiting here for a long time. Today is New Year's Eve, and the banquet will start soon. Why are you here? Hong Fan asked with a smile. Are you going to eat here for free? It's just a matter of a pair of bowls and chopsticks, but don't expect the food to be too good. Hong Ping was a little embarrassed when he heard this, and scratched his head. Second brother, I came here from my mother. She asked me to invite you to Zhangguangyun for the New Year's Eve dinner, and asked me to be respectful. Hong Fan said oh. Some memories floated in his mind, and he nodded slowly. This procedure has been followed in previous years, he replied. But in the past, it was the servants who came here, and today it's your turn. Hearing this, Hong Ping became more and more uneasy. But Hong Fan didn't mean to embarrass anyone. Forget it, go back by yourself, he said. We have lived like this for so many years, it has become a habit, let's just do it like in previous years. Hong Ping got the promise, but did not leave immediately, still hesitating in place. Second brother, in fact, during the New Year's Eve dinner in the past, Dad would always ask why you were not there, he finally said. This was obviously the truth, but facing Hong Fan's gaze, Hong Ping's face was hot and he couldn't continue. Because he vaguely felt that whether Hong Jian had asked or not, it didn't make much difference to the second brother in front of him. Hong Ping had to skip this. My mother specifically asked me to make it clear that this time we are respectfully inviting you, second brother, and Aunt Liu from Chorayan. This statement was not in the memories inherited by the time traveler. Hey, Hong Fan shook his head and laughed. I have always known that your mother is not a stupid person, smart, clever, but short-sighted, but it's not her fault. This sentence made Hong Ping confused. He was still young and had never experienced his half-brother's experience. Over the years, the original owner of Hong Fan's body could not see his biological father several times a year. Since his mother passed away, they have never even had a reunion for the New Year's Eve dinner. Of course. There is a reason for this. Hong Chen is the most respectable and never breaks the rules on the surface, so she would send someone to invite her every New Year's Eve. In the past, she only invited one person. This was also natural. How could Aunt Liu, a servant, be qualified to eat at the same table with the master? Because of this, Hong Fan at that time never agreed. There is also a custom of staying up on New Year's Eve in Dahua. If you went, Aunt Liu would be left alone in the shabby courtyard, alone until dawn. The former Hong Fan was sinister, weak, and powerless. But for this reason alone, the time traveler would not think that he was irresponsible. Some things, if you miss them, you miss them. Hong Fan sighed, put away his thoughts, and patted Hong Ping on the shoulder. It will be dark soon, go back, tell the clan leader and the eldest lady that I will spend the new year in Chorayan. If there is no accident, it will be like this in the future. P.S. This part was added after the posting, not counted. The previous book did not have a sense of rhythm, and there was nothing exciting in the first half, so the initial positioning of this book was to go to Xiao Bei's exciting text. When I first conceived the opening, I designed the eldest lady, the housekeeper, and the two legitimate sons as pure villains, and they were solved one by Hong Fan in the pretense and face slapping. It is old-fashioned, but it is a kind of exercise for me. After all, pretending to be pretentious and slapping is the core technology of online literature, and 99% of the books are laid out in this way. However, as I was writing, I was forced to change the outline. According to the plan, Zhang Yao would be secretly killed by Hong Fan after the competition with a wound infection, which was regarded as the first appearance of the Sand World. But when I really wrote there, I thought about it for 3 days to find all kinds of reasons for Hong Fan, and I couldn't let him do it. Because the protagonist I envisioned is a mature, capable, and leadership elite time traveler, not a villain who gets power by relying on the golden finger and lets his emotions run wild. He is highly selfish, has seen the industrial age, and understands the truth that many people are stronger than one person. He should have some personal charm, should be able to turn enemies into friends, should be able to convince the people around him and turn them into his own power. Regardless of offending a group of elites i.e. cavalry who have a brotherhood with Zhang Yao, regardless of the feelings of the tribe, just to vent anger and evil, kill. This kind of thing Hong Fan would never do. Humans are social animals, and everyone will become someone's wall and another person's road. I think in Hong Fan's eyes, not only Zhang Yao, but even Hong Ping and Hong Sheng should be assets, not liabilities. As the story moves forward, the characters gradually become concrete. Not only the protagonist, but also Chiuda, the First Lady, and Hong Sheng's choices have been inconsistent with the outline. This is also one of the reasons why I write slowly. Chapter 111 Scar. The sun set on New Year's Eve. The moon tilted its face, and the fields were covered with red clouds. In the main hall of Chori courtyard, the charcoal stove was burning hot, and the table was filled with bowls and pots. Fried tofu balls, fried fish, white-cut chicken, braised pork belly, steamed sausages. In addition to 6 or 7 plates of meat, there were 2 plates of pickled vegetables and a plate of stir-fried winter bamboo shoots. Of course, wine was indispensable. Tinghe Pavilion sent Yuquan Shao specially before the new year. The wine was clear and fragrant. The bowls and chopsticks were set, and the 5 masters and servants sat down at the table. In other places in the Hong mansion, servants would never sit with the master, but in Chori courtyard, they followed Hong Fan's wishes. Aunt Liu stood up to pour the wine. Hong Fan and Tang Dajie used bowls, and the 2 little girls Tao Hong and Liu Lu used cups. Only Aunt Liu used tea instead of wine, and she kept saying that there should be a sober person at home to clean up. After Hong Fan took the lead in tasting a meatball, everyone started to eat. After the maids had eaten their fill, Hong Fan toasted to celebrate the new year. Du Kang poured down his throat, and his cheeks were flushed. The festive atmosphere filled the dining table. Aunt Liu talked about how she walked halfway across the city to buy tofu, which was delicious and cheap. Tang Dajie mentioned that Hong Qi had bullied someone's horse and became the overlord of the stable. Tao Hong Liu Lu chattered about the gossips of boys and girls among the children. For a while, everyone was having fun. There were 5 people and 10 dishes. With Hong Fan, the big eater, they quickly finished half of them. The porcelain bottle containing Yuquan Shao was also half empty. Compared with the children of the Hong family, Hong Fan had a good reputation among the servants. He was tolerant, cheerful and approachable. But in the past 6 months, no one dared to disrespect or deceive him. This matter is not just about martial arts. Some people say it is because of their temperament, some say it is because of their appearance, and some say it is because of the natural majesty of the star god. Tao Hong Liu Lu is the same. After 2 months of getting along, they would start to stammer whenever their young master looked at them for a few more times. Today, the whole family sat at the same table, and they were slightly drunk. Tao Hong finally dared to speak to Hong Fan. Young master is the son of the eldest master, and he is not married yet. Why doesn't he go to Zhongguangyun for the New Year's Eve dinner? She asked with blinking eyes. Because the New Year's Eve dinner should be eaten at home, Hong Fan smiled and replied. My home is this Chorayan, so I am naturally here too. Tao Hong and Lil were still confused after hearing this, but they didn't dare to ask any more. At this time, Tang Dajie was happily pouring wine for himself, and Aunt Liu lowered her head to eat the dishes. The paper window was suddenly reflected with colorful brilliance. A moment later, thunder rumbled. It's someone else setting off fireworks, Tao Hong and Lil said excitedly, looking at Hong Fan eagerly. Seeing the latter nodded, they got off the chairs, extinguished 2 candles first, and opened the windows and doors. The colorful light rushed in with a cold wind. To be honest, compared with what Hong Fan had seen in his previous life, this firework was about the level of the smallest 10-shot fireworks in a roadside shop. But he still admired it very attentively. Across half of the Hong mansion, meteors rose up and exploded into different colors. A beam of light was like a guest who was just passing by, visiting every room with open doors and windows. After lingering for a moment, he left without saying goodbye. Aunt Liu and Tao Hong Liu Lu were fascinated by the sight. The Hong family was the richest family in Jinhe City, and many people set off fireworks in each room and courtyard. It got dark in the east and lit up in the west. The various lights lasted for a cup of tea before they stopped. After closing the doors and windows, the room was quickly warmed up by the heat. Most of the dishes on the table had been wiped out. I didn't know that fireworks in this world had so many colors, Hong Fan chanted casually. On New Year's Eve in previous years, the mansion would also set off fireworks. But at that time, we lived in a remote area, so my aunt and I could only see some corners on the courtyard wall. He laughed as he spoke. Tao Hong Little is new to the mansion, so she probably hasn't seen where we lived at the time, a small courtyard with 2 small rooms, where just the 2 of us lived. No, there was a big locust tree. The world is vast, and I have a corner all to myself. Now that I think about it, I feel quite at ease, Hong Fan said in a nostalgic tone. But the vague memories he inherited are, for others, unforgettable scars. Aunt Liu finally couldn't hold back and burst into tears. Young master is talking nonsense. Last New Year's Eve you ate steamed buns with sauce, she cried in a low voice out of heartache. The meat and vegetables on the table were only the oil residue I begged for, and the 5 tails of waffle sent by the second room. The candlelight flickered, and Aunt Liu lowered her face slightly without wiping her tears, as if she was drunk. It was very hard before, and I didn't feel at ease at all. Jowry Courtyard is 10 times, 100 times better than it was then. She snatched the wine bowl from the bewildered Tang Dajian, took a gulp, and then looked at the young master with tears in her eyes. Master, you said, we will never go back, right? Hong Fan was silent after hearing this, and then stood up. He held the wine bowl with both hands respectfully, lowered half an inch and touched the edge of Aunt Liu's bowl. And, I promise you, I will never go back. He said it more solemnly than ever before, and drank the whole bowl of wine in one gulp. Half an hour later, the leftovers were brought back to the kitchen, and the table was polished by peach blossoms and willows. Just after the beginning of the high hour, 9 o'clock in the evening, there was a strong shout outside the Jowry Courtyard. Brother Fan, Master Kui is here, Hong Fu shouted twice, and pushed open the courtyard door without any hesitation. Hong Fan looked out of the house and saw that the little fat man's cheeks were red. Obviously he had also drunk wine. Behind him, followed Kui Yudang, who entered the Jowry Courtyard for the first time. Brother Fan, tonight is New Year's Eve. My family is going to make iron flowers, and I specially come to invite you and Brother Fu. Master Kui smiled and invited sincerely. And, Lao Tang, and the 2 young ladies, please come together, you are really thoughtful, Hong Fan replied with a smile. With his current position in Jinhei, there will definitely be many people coming to make appointments tonight. But Kui Yudang is the most capable of doing things in the circle of young masters in the city. He sent generous festival gifts before the new year and prepared things for Aunt Liu. This time he came to collect Hong Fu first. I know your family makes iron flowers every year, and every time there are crowds of people watching, Hong Fan asked deliberately. There are 6 of us here, will there be no room? How can there be no room? Kui Yudang smiled even more. No matter how crowded it is, I will never squeeze you in, and, otherwise I will be the first to go out. Half an hour later, Chisha Avenue. The crowd filled the wide street. When Kui Yudang arrived with his people, 2 waiting blacksmith apprentices came up to greet them and used their strong arms to clear the way for them. On the open ground at the intersection next to Duanshan Hall, an octagonal shed more than 10 feet high and decorated with fire starters was set up. In the center of the shed, a 3-foot-high pole stood upright, with a string of firecrackers hanging on the top. Under the shed, 5 pairs of middle-aged blacksmiths with bare upper bodies were carrying newly molten iron, ready to go. Hong Fan and his men stood in the best first row on the street. When the auspicious time was approaching, Mr. Kui tidied his appearance and walked into the center of the street. Chapter 112 Temple Ceremony. At the command, the ceremony began immediately. A bowl of molten iron was scooped up from a steel bucket and thrown into the air, followed by a flower stick in the shape of an iron racket. Snap! The street was suddenly lit up. At the same moment, it seemed as if thousands of golden epiphyllums bloomed. The light illuminated people's faces and outlined their smiles. Withering follows blooming. The iron flowers that had exhausted all their strength scattered in all directions, first turning into golden rain, then transmitting heat to the world, and then disappearing into the curtain of the new year. Oh, the glory burned out, and the audience sighed in disappointment. Then, the second handful of iron flowers bloomed. Under the shed, the first pair of blacksmiths crossed the center line, and the second pair had already caught up. The 1,600-degree iron liquid was hit by the flower sticks in turn, passing through the shed in clusters, and ignited the fuel tied to the wooden beams. The light danced like a flying dragon, and fire was born from the iron. Amid the crackling sound of iron hammering, countless crystals of joy and happiness fell to the ground along with the burning iron filings. Brother Fan, the longest pole is called the Old Pole. The crowd was so noisy that Kui Yudang had to lean his head close to Hong Fan's ear to communicate. The firecrackers hanging on the top of the pole are lucky. If the iron flower made by someone is ignited, it means lucky, which means the best luck in the coming year. Hong Fan listened to the introduction with relish, smiling and nodding. Another layer of star rain fell, and he stretched out his palm and received a few iron seeds that were still warm. Every year, the money and people for making iron flowers are paid by our Kui family, Kui Yudang said again, his face full of pride. The first is to add excitement to Jinhei, the second is to pray for good fortune in the coming year, the third is to promote the family business, The first round of iron flower performance ended successfully. The bare-chested blacksmith stopped, exhaled white air, and put their hands on their waists to recover their strength. Just when the crowd was a little cooled, Mr. Kui came on stage again. "Everyone, in this round today, Zulong didn't allow our Kui family to win," he shook his head and said, but there was no disappointment on his face. "I guess maybe the luck is not on them, so why not ask someone else to try?" Instantly, everyone raised their hands excitedly, wanting to volunteer. However, Mr. Kui didn't look at them, but his eyes were only looking somewhere. It was his nephew's side. Kui Yudang hurriedly grabbed Hong Fan's shoulders and pushed him forward. "Let our Jinhei Xingjin try," he said loudly. After this, no one argued anymore, but just applauded and cheered. Hong Fan naturally realized that this was a deliberate arrangement by the Kui family. But how could he refuse under such a generous offer? "Jinhei Hong Fan," he responded loudly, strode to the center of the street, and took the flower stick. Under the octagonal shed, the most experienced blacksmith came up and threw the molten iron for him. The long pole was only 3 meters high, and with the dexterity and strength of the master of the Guanchong realm, how could he miss? He hit it with one stick. Meteors rushed up like waterfalls and hit the top of the pole. Firecrackers were immediately lit, and crackling sounds were heard. We got lucky, Tao Hongliov was the first to applaud, and her hands were red from clapping. All the blacksmiths gathered around and beat out more golden rain. The 2 dragon lanterns that had been waiting on the side also came up, passing through the rain, dancing around the greenhouse and the Hong Fan in the greenhouse. The ancestor dragon has responded, and the lucky number has fallen. The second young master of the Hong family has won the lucky number. Countless cheers filled the streets, rushed into the sky, and lit up the night sky. Coincidentally, the sound of chimes and bells came from the bell and drum tower in the distance. Time officially entered the 28th year from the 27th year of Zheng. The crowd became more and more excited. Whether it was applause, cheers, or laughter, everything was connected together, merged into the wind, and brought the joy of the world all the way to the sky. Under the fireworks, Aunt Leah watched the young master standing in the center of everyone's sight, accepting the blessings of the entire city. "Madam, did you see that?" She held on to Tang Dage's arm tightly, smiling and shedding tears. The next day, the 28th year of Zheng, the first day of the new year. The most important ceremony to repay one's ancestors is to worship the ancestors. The Hong family is a large family in Jinhei, and the most important thing on the first day of the new year is naturally to open the temple and worship the ancestors. Compared with other ordinary family members, Hong Fan came to the temple early in the morning to prepare. He will serve as the assistant to worship the grandson in this temple worship. This is the first time in 2 lifetimes. Hong Shengs is the main worshipper of the grandson as always. On the more than 10 red square tables in front of the shrine, the 5 animals are arranged one by one. Food, tea, wine, cakes, paper gifts, etc. fill the remaining space. On both sides of the courtyard of the temple, there are whole pigs and whole sheep supported by racks, all of which have been drained of blood and every hair has been plucked clean. Red candles are burning high, and new couplets are hung. It is approaching noon, and the time is approaching. All the males of the Hong family who have reached the age of 15 are dressed neatly and lined up outside the hall. It's time. Hong Pan and Hong Chang, who are dressed in formal attire and served as communicators and guides, looked at each other and said, Hong Ping and Hong An, the ceremonial students who were responsible for the cooperation, received the order and beat the drums and chimes. As soon as the drums sounded, there was movement outside the door. The door of the niche must be opened by the most senior person in the family. Hong Shan, who was 82 years old and leaning on a cane, supported his uncle Hong Fei and walked forward tremblingly, pulling open the door that had been specially lubricated in advance. Seeing this, Hong Pan shouted with luck, "The ancestral worship begins." At this time, firecrackers rang and drums and music were loud. After 3 drums, everyone had entered the ancestral temple. There was silence in the hall. "Please ask the chief priest's son and assistant priest's son to come forward and give them towels to wash their heads," Hong Pan said loudly. Hong Sheng and Hong Fan immediately stepped out. Hong Ping and Hong An walked over in small steps, the former holding a bronze wash basin filled with clear water, and the latter holding a lacquer tray with a towel. After symbolically washing their hands and faces, Hong Cheng led his descendants to offer incense, wine cups, candles and silk. Then came the core of the sacrifice, the 3 offerings. The first offering. Hong Sheng offered wine, knelt and kowtowed. The second offering. Hong Fen offered food, knelt and kowtowed. The final offering. Hong Jian read the sacrificial text. The incense was burning and the chanting was clear. Build temples, worship ancestors, follow the order of seniority, offer sacrifices in spring and autumn, recommend steamed food, and truly repay the ancestors for their ancestors. The first day of the first month of the 28th year of Zheng, descendants should report their achievements to their ancestors. Hong Jian, the 28th generation descendant, is 47 years old. His key has returned to the innate realm and he is honored as the number one in the Golden Sea. Hong Sheng, the 29th generation eldest, is 21 years old. He has reached the peak of the 8 meridians and his cultivation is the best of his time. Hong Fan, the 29th generation descendant, is 18 years old. He controls the dragon-given life star and his reputation surpasses his peers. In December of the 27th year of Zheng, the Hong family joined forces with other families to send troops to Hongdao Mountain. The sacrificial text was very long, detailing all the major events that had happened in the Hong family in the past year, and it was naturally magnificent. Hong Fan knelt in the first row and listened quietly, feeling a rare peace in the solemnity. For a moment, he felt that the ancestral hall crowded with hundreds of people seemed to have become a whole. Not only the people, not only the tablets, but also the entire land and buildings, have become one, sharing the same breath and destiny. The 3 offerings were over. Hong Li, dressed in a robe, walked to the front and gave a speech to all the descendants on behalf of the ancestor. Tell your descendants to be upright and loyal, to be virtuous and filial, to be diligent and frugal, to carry on the past and usher in the future, to glorify the ancestors and bring glory to the clan, to not fail to be trusted, to start anew and end anew. At noon, the sacrifice ended. The elders divided the 2 clean animals into hundreds of portions and distributed 1 portion to each participant. This is called distributing sacrificial meat. Hong Fan changed out of his formal dress and carried the largest portion of meat that belonged to him out of the ancestral hall. The bright sunlight outside made him squint. The Hong mansion used to be very large and cold, with many twists and turns. But today, he suddenly realized that he only walked for a short while and returned to Choryuan. Chapter 113 Taking Root. The lunch on the first day of the Lunar New Year was very simple in Choryuan. Because of Huang Fan's big appetite, there was almost nothing left from the sumptuous meal last night. Fortunately, there were more than 2 kilograms of sacrificial meat brought back. Aunt Liu used her skills to make 2 meat dishes with pork and mutton, and added the cabbage, radish and freshly picked coriander stored in winter, and easily prepared a table of delicacies. The 5 people had lunch with steamed buns. In the morning, all the ancestors who could be included in the family tree had been worshipped. But Hong Fan still had a relative he had to visit. The biological mother of his original owner. In memory, Hong Fan's mother was buried in Taishan. Because she was a concubine, she could not be included in the family tree or buried in the family tomb. The journey was not short, and before 2 p.m., the 3 of them had already left in the carriage that Tang Da had harnessed. Originally, the carriage should have been pulled by a Bentley, but Hong Fan specifically asked for a red flag. Going southeast out of the city, there was no pedestrian on the road, making the air even colder. Hong Fan sat in the carriage, looking ahead blankly. Taishan was still covered with snow. The peaks of the mountain were softened, and they looked like a series of continuous graves. After more than an hour, the carriage stopped at the foot of a mountain. The red flag was also left here. It was full of sharp teeth and brute force, so there was no need to worry about it being stolen. This mountain is called King Tao, and it also belongs to Taishan, and Liu introduced. At the beginning, a Taoist priest was specially selected. Sure enough, the feng shui is very good. The 3 of them walked 300 or 400 meters up the gentle slope and came to an open area on the southern foot of King Tao Mountain. Behind here is the raised main peak, and on the left and right are slightly lower hills. The flat valley is right at the foot of the mountain, and the view is surprisingly open. Although there is snow, Aunt Liu found the place with a little identification. It is about 2 meters high, with snow on the top and bricks on the side. In front of the grave, there is an uncarved stone slab with 2 rows of characters, one large and one small. The tomb of the Hong Lin family in Jinhai City. Hong Jianli, madam, the young master and I are here to see you, Aunt Liu said with a smile, snatching the cloth bag from Tang Daji's hand and motioning him to sweep the snow. This is Tang Daji, the horse breeder. You have seen him before. Now he's living with me. After a while, The tomb was cleaned up, revealing the frozen soil. She then took out the things she had prepared for a long time one by one. Incense, candles, yellow paper, paper money, gold ingots. Hong Fan stepped forward to help. And, where's my mother from? Why is there no name engraved on the tombstone? He felt inexplicably empty in his heart and had to say something. Madam was born in a farm outside Jinhae City, and her parents are both members of the Hong family, Aunt Liu replied. The Hong family here obviously does not refer to the surname Hong, but to people who belong to the Huang family. As for the name, Madam doesn't seem to have a big name. She paused her hand movements and said after thinking for a while. I only heard her family call her Kier, no name. Hong Fan was startled, but not too surprised. During this period, he often heard that there were many bandits outside the cities of Liangzhou, and ordinary people had a hard time. It was normal for the daughter of a poor farm slave to have no name. Are your grandparents still alive? Hong Fan asked again. When he said this, he felt a little guilty. The inherited memories were not all there, and on the other hand, he had never cared about these things after almost a year of traveling here. Young master may have forgotten that they all passed away 3 or 4 years ago? Aunt Liu was slightly stunned when she heard this, and replied. The countryside is not like the mansion. It's good for a farmer to live past 60, she continued. Her tone was not sad or happy, just ordinary. The incense and candles were lit, and the three of them bowed. Then Aunt Liu knelt in front of the tomb again and lit the yellow paper with candlelight. Not long after the flames rose, her eyes were red and she kept mumbling. Listening carefully, it was probably saying that the young master had made it and became a star god, but it was a pity that you, the lady, didn't see it. Hong Fan also knelt down beside him, trying to retrieve the inherited memory. But he could not remember Hong Lin's face, he only remembered that she still had a fragile and gentle beauty when she was dying. That beauty had nothing to do with color, it was the mother's endless attachment and concern for her child, regardless of life or death. In the end, the time traveler had no choice but to kowtow a few times to express his gratitude for borrowing his son's identity. The yellow paper burned quickly, and Aunt Liu began to burn the ingots that she had spent a long time folding. We moved to Chori Courtyard, and now we are living a very good life. 2 new servants have come to the courtyard, named Teo Hong and Liulu. I have heard that the clan is already discussing moving you to the clan tomb and adding you to the family tree. It's all because of the young master. You can't imagine that it was the eldest lady who first proposed this. Hong Fan knelt aside, staring blankly at the snow-covered pines and cypresses beside him and the white clouds in the sky. He couldn't help but think of his parents in another world. Perhaps it was also the first day of the Chinese New Year. Perhaps it was also a cemetery. Perhaps it was also a cement grave of this size. The only difference was that he, who had turned into ashes, was lying in the grave, while 2 white-haired people were burning paper outside. Hong Fan tried hard to hold back the moisture in his eyes, and tried hard to think and outline the scenes of the past. But after trying his best, he was filled with confusion. Childhood, school, work. Most of the memories of his previous life had faded unconsciously. What was vivid in his mind was the past year. Eating with Aunt Liu in the moonlight, defeating Zhang Yao on Ning Street, taking a shower in the well with Hong Fu, counterattack in the Sea of Sand, descent from the cliff on Taishan, leading the battle on Hongdao Mountain. It has only been 9 months since the time travel, but what has happened is too fulfilling and too profound. The fire gradually weakened. The wind rolled the burnt yellow paper ingots into the air. Tang Da-jet, who was kneeling on the other side, smiled and said loudly, "The ashes will be carried away by the wind and will go all the way to the sky. This means that the lady has received everything we sent." Aunt Liu also laughed. Hong Fan nodded woodenly and stood up. He looked at his aunt who kowtowed again after mumbling a few words, and Tang Da-jie who was kneeling beside him in a proper manner, and suddenly a thought came to his mind. I am already a Dahua person, a member of the Hong clan of Dahua Jinhae City. I have become Hong Fan, and I can never go back. As he thought about it, the bitterness, sweetness, bitterness and spiciness in his heart surged at the same time, blending into the most intense sorrow and joy. For the first time since he crossed over, he could not control his emotions and was unwilling to control them anymore, and was forced to turn around and walk away. Being a stranger in a foreign land, I miss my family all the more during every festive occasion. On the rock, Hong Fan stood with his fists clenched, his cheeks wet by the heat. At this time, the mountain wind was blowing very hard, but it bypassed his tears. After a long time, The sacrificial fire was extinguished, and only the smoldering dark red remained on the paper ashes. Aunt Liu and Mr. Tang packed up their things and stood up. Turning back, they saw the young master standing alone on a higher rock. He stood very steadily and looked far away. He was like a seed that drifted here and took root in this land. P.S. These chapters are a bit more daily and not in line with the traditional fantasy style. But in fact, writing this kind of content requires adjusting emotions and polishing language, which takes a lot of effort. Since the title of the first volume of this book is Stranger in a Strange Land, the process of Hong Fan, as a time traveler, forming a bond with his second hometown is what the title means, and it is one of the more important main lines. Readers who like to watch martial arts battles and pretending to be cool and getting slapped in the face, please wait, and we will enter the next big plot soon. Chapter 114 The Victim. The 18th day of the first lunar month, the Lantern Festival had just passed. The afterglow of the festival melted the snow. The east wind came from afar the following year. The north wind that had swallowed up sand and spit out snow for months had slightly subsided, giving up part of the fields of Liangshao. On the top of the mountain, at the foot of the cloud, the cold wind and the hot current met, and a drizzle broke out. The grass and trees began to sprout. Hong Mansion, Mingshan Hall. Plum blossoms and bamboo leaves decorated a window view. 5 people in the house sat as host and guest. The visitors were Gong Minggin, the patriarch of the Gong family, who had the cultivation of the 6 meridians, and 2 young men. The Gong family was the first family in Liangshao Tongguang City. Its current patriarch Gong Heng had the cultivation of the peak of innateness, and was known as the strongest in combat below the Western Yuan magnetic realm in Liangshao. The Hong family was responsible for the reception of Firebird Ming Wang Hong Ming and Hong Sheng. I have no choice but to visit you so presumptuously just after the Lantern Festival, Guangming Gong bowed in his seat. But please consider what Gong said just now. He wore a tall crown and had a white face without a beard. His skin was so thin that the veins could be clearly seen. At this time, Guangming Gong asked softly, and there was a sense of power that was not released, which made people dare not underestimate him. I have always known that people in the world spread the news, but I didn't expect that the news would spread so quickly. Hong Ming laughed roughly. Tongguang City is 300 miles southwest of Jinhei and adjacent to the southernmost end of Jingsha Sea. It has been just over a month since the families of Jinhei joined forces to eliminate Shangfei, and it was also the new year in the middle. I didn't expect that even Tongguang City 300 miles away knew about it. Hong Ming looked at the 3 people of the Gong family meaningfully. Shangfei has been entrenched for many years, and now it has been uprooted in one fell swoop. This is a great achievement. How can it be compared with ordinary things? Guangming Gong complimented. Besides, there are many marriages between the major clans in Liangshao. There is no lack of New Year exchanges in the first month of the year, so the news spreads quickly. What he said was quite right. After New Year's Eve, many children from other families came to the Huang family to pay New Year's greetings to their uncles. After eating and drinking, they would brag and chat. The 2 people from the Hong family nodded slightly. We understand what Elder Gong meant. Hong Sheng took over. We did confiscate some things in the sea battle, but it was much less than expected. It is said that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Wang Guangji is a cautious person. I don't know how many burrows he has in the Sand Sea. We estimate that many valuables have been scattered and hidden elsewhere, he said with a wry smile. The 3 people from the Gong family looked slightly cold. But as you said, we did find some of your family's lost things, Hong Sheng continued. There are about a few jade pendants and wooden cabinets with your family's emblems. I will arrange for people to deliver these things to where you are staying and return them intact. After he finished speaking, he drank half a cup of tea by himself. This was a way to see the guests off. However, the 3 members of the Gong family had no intention of leaving. Guang, I would like to thank the eldest young master for his kindness. Guangming Gong thanked him, but there was no gratitude in his words. But I heard that your family has made a lot of money from this triumphant return. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere immediately became tense. Why do you say that, Elder Gong? Hong Sheng forced a smile. The rumors on the streets are all groundless. Guangming Gong shook his head and refuted directly. I heard that the troops of the Jinhei families returned to the city on the 12th day of the 12th lunar month, bringing back hundreds of war horses and dozens of carts. After counting the wealth and goods, the total value of the goods was at least 65,000 taels. Where did you hear that? Hong Ming asked in a deep voice. The other party's number was too precise, and someone must have told him. Hong Sheng's heart also jumped, but compared to Huaxu Mingwang, he was still more calm. Guang Mingying smiled slightly. People don't beat around the bush, so I'll speak frankly. Half of Liang's Hao knows that when Lord Jingsha was still alive, He Shangfei would not have dared to attack the caravans of Jinhe City even if he had the guts to do so. In the past few years, Wan Guangji plundered everywhere, and it was our blood that was shed and our flesh that was robbed. It's a pity that we have never been able to find his lair, otherwise my family's head would have taken action long ago. As he spoke, his eyes swept over the two Hongs, and he took out a thin book and a wax letter from his bosom and handed them to them. This is the account of the property and goods lost by the Guang family due to He Shangfei in the past few years. The time, place, and number of casualties of each crime are recorded. The letter is issued by the Tongguang City Guard Office. As a proof, Hong Sheng and the other man flipped through the book and opened the letter, and read them separately. The account recorded 11 attacks, and the total property was assessed to be 25,000 taels of silver. This does not include the loss of the caravan and manpower. Of course I know that Lord Hong personally led the team to suppress the bandits this time, and your family also suffered many casualties, Guang Mingying said after seeing the two people finish reading. If what I heard is correct, there should be more than 40 people killed in the battle, and about 170 casualties. This number is too accurate, and the two people from the Hong family frowned again. So it is not reasonable for us to take back all the 25,000 taels. Why don't you return 15,000 taels, and the rest will be considered as a reward? How about it? Hong Ming heard this. His face was as gloomy as water. 15,000 taels of silver is almost equivalent to 5 times the annual surplus of the Hong family. This money can buy thousands of acres of land, or arm the red-clothed cavalry with horses, armor, and a full set of weapons 3 times. Your Excellency, this is a big ask for the snake man, Hong Ming said sarcastically. I don't know where Elder Guang heard the number of 65,000 taels, but my Hong family doesn't have it. Again, we will send back the items with the Gong family emblem. As for the rest, it's useless for anyone to covet. At the end, he was already stern. An hour later, in the reception room of Xiong Guanggyun, Hong Ming and Hong Sheng came to report to Hong Jian. Also present were Hong Wu, Hong Li, and Hong Fan, who was specially called to listen. Counting the Quan and Lu families who came 2 days ago, this is the third batch to come after the new year, Hong Sheng said. All 3 families are here to ask for the property that was robbed at sea. The Quan family wants 10,000 taels, the Lu family 7,000, and the Gong family who came today wants the most, a full 15,000 taels. The total of the 3 families is 32,000 taels, which is half of the total spoils. The spoils he mentioned naturally did not include the things that Hong Fan found privately. Only 3 people in the Hong family know about the 150 silver notes of 100 taels and the blood of the suspected dragon heir. You want to take away 30,000 taels with nothing but empty words, Hong Wu said disdainfully. This time it was my elder brother who stepped in, and we suffered so much loss. Now the wealth has been distributed to each family, and there are no names on the gold and silver. I think they are daydreaming. He became more and more angry as he spoke, and wanted to say more, but was stopped by his brother. Have you checked the accounts brought by these 3 families? Hong Jian asked. I asked Yuda to check it personally, Hong Ming replied. It can't be said that they match completely, but 50% to 60% of them match. Considering the stolen goods sold by He Shangfei over the years, I'm afraid their accounts are true. After all, there are letters from the city guards of Yuquan and Tongguang to prove it. Chapter 115, Joining Forces. Hearing Hong Ming say this, even Hong Wu, who had the hottest temper, did not refute. How terrifying was Ma Jingsha's combat power in the desert at the peak of his innate power, and how much respect the sand bandits had for Jinhe City at that time. They respected it so much that even if their lair was closest to Jinhe, they would rather take a long detour to rob other caravans. So in fact, the Gong, Quan and Lu families were really the victims, and their demands were not completely unreasonable. But in this world, who doesn't have their own reasons? There have been many examples of arresting bandits and returning property since ancient times, Hong Li said. We, the Hong family, are not stingy. If they ask for it sincerely, it is not impossible for the Jinhe families to give them 1 or 2,000 taels each. But this is very strange. He flipped through the account book on the table, and his mouth corners lowered. These 3 families came too quickly, and they know a lot about our gains and losses. I'm afraid they came prepared and will not give up. Hearing Hong Li's words, Hong Wu just sneered. Don't worry, cousin. He knocked his hand on the table, making a clanging sound like metal. The Zhangwu Academy has long established a precedent. If the criminals on the evil list are executed among the people, the government will not take any spoils of war, no matter how detailed their accounts are. I only know that one Guangji died under the Yanliu Guang, and we sent his head to Gongsun Shi. As for the letter from the city guardhouse, if this thing is useful, I can go to find Lord Zhang today to write 5 or 10 letters. Hearing this, Hong Ming agreed and slapped his thigh. He wished that time could go back and confront Gao Mingyun again. At this time, Hong Jian looked at Hong Fan. What do you think? This was the latter's first time to participate in the decision-making meeting of the Hong family. But of course he would not be stage frightened. I also think that we should not take it lightly, Hong Fan replied. Hong Wu and Hong Ming looked over. This time, the Quan family and the Lu family of Yukon City are on the same side, and the Gong family of Tongguang City is on the same side. Hong Fan continued with a calm look. If only one of them faces half of the Jinhe, it's natural that a strong dragon cannot defeat a local snake, but if they are brought together, which is very likely, there are only 4 innate masters, which doesn't mean that a fierce dragon cannot cross the river. Hong Wu wanted to refute, but after thinking for a while, he nodded. Guang Heng's reputation of dark tide and gloomy day is well known to everyone in the west of Liangzhou, and he is more than one level better than Hong Jian. As the saying goes, knowing yourself and the enemy, you can fight 100 battles without danger. We must prepare early. Hong Fan raised his cup and sipped his tea, thinking of the 2 Wudang riders of the Li family. For example, what interests do we have with Tongguang and Yukon? How can the 3 families of Gong, Quan and Lu trip us up, especially the trade route over there? Don't reveal anything, everyone seemed to be thinking. Only Hong Ming and Hong Sheng were a little confused. Which side is over there? Hong Ming asked. Hong Fan pointed to the north. He was obviously referring to the illegal trade with the snake people. The 2 suddenly realized and felt a chill in their hearts. I will go and take care of the chief family, don't worry, brother Fan. Hong Wu nodded sternly, obviously listening to him. The 3 families all live in Jinfeng Tower. I have informed the Gao family and will report to you as soon as there is any situation. Jinhe is our place. I want to see what tricks they can play. On the same day, at night, the drizzle was like hair, soaking the whole city, and the wind made it even colder. As soon as it got dark, there were no pedestrians on Chusha Avenue. Only the Jinfeng Tower was brightly lit, dominating the street. In the rooftop hall, more than a dozen old and young from 3 families were sitting down for a feast. As Elder Gong said, our 2 families also received anonymous letters in the middle of the 12th lunar month. A middle-aged giant with a strong figure and arms thicker than ordinary people's thighs said. The letter details the losses and spoils of the battle at Hongdao Mountain. Judging from the reactions of the 3 families of Jinhe during our 3-day visit, it must be true. This person is Quan Keihong, the 3rd master of the Quan family. He practices the family tradition of Buddha power and has the 4 meridians. Guang Mingyun, who is sitting at the top, nodded in agreement. I didn't expect that the people behind the scenes are so big. They want to use our 3 families as knives at the same time. He picked up a peanut and chewed it into pieces. But Elder Guang still came. Lu Yeru, the steward of the Lu family, who was sitting at the 2nd top, smiled. He has a long black beard, wears a scholar's robe, and has a handsome appearance. This may be the work of a rival family in Jinhe City, or the leader of the remaining Heishang Fei wants to avenge the heads of the families. But is it important to us? It's really not important. Guang Mingyun swallowed the peanut and replied. It's only natural for the Gong family to come here, he said, looking at the 2 people on his left and right. Since we have the same goal, why don't we work together? That's what I want, Quan and Lu replied immediately. Once the alliance was formed, the atmosphere of the banquet became even more heated. After a few rounds of toasts, the 3 masters of the Hunren realm dismissed the others and the topic gradually deepened. In the past 2 years, Huiyang state has changed its orders every day and demanded excessively. The situation in the entire southwest of Liangzhou is not good, Lu Yeru said. Since we are here to make money, we must try our best to avoid the real and use our power to suppress others. Does Deacon Lu think too highly of them? Guang Mingyun raised his eyebrows. The world is bustling, and it's all about interests. We have to take back 32,000 taels of silver from the Golden Sea. Can we do without hard means? He drank the wine in the glass in one gulp and said proudly. Ma Jingsha has died. The only Xiantian of the chief family died in the hands of the snake people, and the successor of the family head is just a matter of fate. Now the only one with some reputation in Jinhe is the Sword Ming Healy of the Li family, Quan Keihong reminded. The one of the Li family is now ranked second in Jinhe City. I naturally know that Hong Jian's cultivation is better than Li Heming. Guangming Gigan was slightly displeased. But this person has no talent and reputation. His cultivation depends entirely on hard work. His combat power is at most similar to that of Li Heming. He relied on his brother Gong Heng's overwhelming reputation and combat power, and did not take the three surnames of Jinhe seriously. The two Xiantians of Jinhe are naturally far from being comparable to the head of your family, Lu Ruiyi flattered, but changed his tone. But when we big families do things, we can't just focus on the present. Are you talking about Hong Sheng? Guangming Gigan thought for a while and asked back. This boy is indeed gifted, but the most outstanding son of my Gong family this generation is not much inferior to him. Lu is not just talking about the eldest son of the Hong family. Lu Yiru shook his head. There is also Hong Jian's illegitimate son, the new Star Lord, Hong Fan. Hong Fan, Guangming Gigan obviously had never heard of this name. He inherited the Fate Star Sands world last year, and then emerged as a rising star, Quan Keihong explained. According to our understanding, this boy was only at the inner vision realm at that time, but now, in just over half a year, he has reached the peak combat power. Guangming Gigan was shocked. It is unlikely that a Star Lord who grows so fast will not be able to advance to the innate realm in the future. And the combat power of the peak Ma Jingsha is definitely stronger than Guangheng in the terrain of the Golden Sand Sea. Then we can't offend the Hong family to death, he said in a deep voice. In this case, it is better to clip the wings and cut off the branches and leaves first, wait until the Hong family is isolated, and then suppress it in one fell swoop. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116, Fanchen Society. 2 days later, on the 20th day of the first lunar month, early in the morning. In the southeast of Jinhe City, the east wind swept over the mountains. As the sun shone, the remaining snow had no place to stay. The new buds on the branches removed the overhead obstacles, and they raised their heads in clusters, merging into the breath of spring. After 2 days of continuous drizzle, the hard soil on the road softened into mud, entangled the wheels of the passing carriages. The sound of whips came one after another. The horses pulled the horses with all their strength, but the team still stopped. This was the transportation team of the Weaponry Bureau. We are almost at Jinhe City, but we have to encounter such a thing at this time, Zhu Jingfu sighed, thinking of the huge sum of 50 taels given by Hong Fan, and the feasting and revelry in Zijing for a few days. So he jumped off the carriage, took out a little dry food, and left the team alone. Today's world is not peaceful, and there are more and more bandits in the city, and the cultivation of the inner vision realm is not enough to protect himself. Therefore, when traveling from Jinhe to Zijing, he had to move with a prison's convoy. However, now that he had entered the territory of Jinhe City, he no longer had to worry about safety. 8 or 9 hours later, Zhu Jingfu, covered in sweat, arrived at the Jinhe Weaponry Bureau. Half a quarter of an hour later, Wen's Hongwen left the Yemen, neither riding in a sedan chair nor a car, but riding alone to the Hong mansion. In the Xiongguang courtyard, 6 candles as thick as arms were lit, illuminating the room. The first-class families are all heirs of the dragon, and their blood is very pure, but there are still subtle differences between them. Wen's Hongwen held the glass bottle in his hand and said, "We can't see the difference, but the State Department can measure it. It has been confirmed that the bottle contains the blood of the heir of the dragon, and it is most likely the blood of the Zhao family, except for him." The other 4 people in the room, 3 senior members of the Hong family and 1 Hong Fan, all frowned. Hong Fan, the chief supervisor, also praised your 2 new articles, Wen's Hongwen continued, with a smile on his face. The law must be reached was sent a long time ago. He didn't reply separately before because he submitted the 2 articles to Huz Hao together. Huz Hao, Hong Fan was puzzled. "I don't know why it was Huz Hao," Wen's Hongwen replied. His eyebrows were full of uncontrollable joy. "But for the chief supervisor to use the word submit, it must be one of the 5. The 5? Is it the magic saint that Lord Wen is talking about?" Hong Wu asked, quite unbelievable. "I am just guessing," But I can't think of any other possibility, Wen Hongwen replied, obviously excited to the point of eyelids twitching, but deliberately changed the subject. It is also because of Hong Fan that the State Department still agreed to a request. He took out a book from his arms and handed it to Hong Jian. This is a partial transcription of the information about Xiao's rebellion. I need to take it back after you read it. Hong Jian opened it and read it in a low voice. The descendants of the 13th king of the Xiao family have been repeatedly suppressed, but not completely wiped out. Later, they were mainly divided into two groups, each doing its own thing. One branch, named the Qiansh sect, entrenched outside the Great Hua territory, widely made friends with foreign martial saints and gods, and their traces were often seen in the impermanent realms of the world. Although the Qiansh sect is the descendant of a traitor, they acted secretly and low-key, and rarely killed people. The other branch, named the Fanshan Society, entrenched in the three southern states, calling themselves the Nano-Xiao family, and has been committed to subverting the rebellion for 200 years. Then there is a part of the resume of the Fanshan Society. 80 years ago, they coerced and instigated the three generals of King Xiao to rebel, led the giant spirit to the south, and destroyed 500 miles. The people were displaced and more than 1 million people were killed and injured. 30 years ago, they secretly infiltrated the Zhejiao Guard, poisoned the water source, ignited the mountain fire, and led the beast tide out of the mountains to the west, destroying 11 cities. The Fanshan Society will do anything to achieve its subversion goals, and will not hesitate to collude with foreign races. Hong Jian finished reading the booklet and passed it to the others. For a while, the only sound in the room was the rustling of pages. These two rebel groups have been passed down for many years, Wen Hongwen added. The current behavior of the Qiansh sect is more like a hidden martial arts sect, so the court turns a blind eye to it, but the Fanshan Society has always been full of rebelliousness, as you can see from the name. After reading the information, Hong Fan felt that it was unreasonable. He could fully understand that the rebels wanted to rule the world. However, colluding with foreign tribes to kill indiscriminately would obviously cut themselves off from the world. How could they replace the Xiao family of Shenjing by doing this? But since this was the fact, it didn't matter whether he understood it or not. The key was whether the two people in Wudanqi were Fanshan Society, and whether there were already their accomplices in Jinhei City. Thinking of this, Hong Fan couldn't help but think of Li Shenji, who knelt in the snow holding his brother but couldn't cry, and Li Hemming, who hung up the banner of exemption from war even though his own son died. He felt a chill rising in his heart. Every time the Fanshan Society rebels, it uses cruel means and affects a wide range of people, Hong Li asked sternly. Since Xiao's blood essence was found in He Shangfei's nest, didn't the prefecture take any action? He didn't want to believe that Jinhei City would become a target, but seeing the bloody examples one after another, he didn't dare to take it lightly. It would have happened, Wen Hongwen replied. But the situation is different this time. This bottle of blood essence is dead blood with no practical effect. It has lost its essence and is no longer valuable, according to the reply from the prefecture. Although the Fanshan Society is bold and daring, it has always attached importance to its reputation and never succeeds by deceiving others, so the prefecture currently thinks that the He Shangfei incident is an isolated case, and it's just that someone deceived Wang Guangji. Hong Fan couldn't help but suck his teeth when he heard this. The essence in the dragon blood was obviously absorbed by his dragon soul tree. Now it has turned into dragon soul fruit. And he can't pay it back even if he wants to. I understand. Thank you, Lord Wen, for taking care of this matter. Hong Jian stood up and thanked Wen Hongwen. His expression was still solemn. Dragon blood was rare and could be mistaken for the real thing, but silver bills could not. For this kind of thing, it is better to believe it than not to believe it. Regarding the identity of the accomplices of the Fanshan Society, Hong Jian seemed to have some guesses, but he didn't say it out in the end. I will report the situation to the city guard, Gongsun Wujian, and General Chu Meng of the Shakao Guard. Although the matter has not been fully clarified, it is always right to strengthen defense. After the secret meeting, Wen Hongwen took back the books and rode away alone in the night. Hong Fan walked back to Chori Court alone. He was already 70% sure that the two people sent by the Dragon Soul Tree were the traitors of the Fanshan Society, and the Li family was the internal response of their collusion. As for the external threat, it was undoubtedly the Snake people. With an imaginary enemy, it was relatively easy for Hong Fan to think from the perspective of others. The Li family will not perish with Jinhei City. No interest is more important than the survival of the clan. The Li family will not turn to the Snake people. The western wild swamp is not suitable for human survival, and the snake people are not trustworthy. The Lee family must also ensure that the identity of the traitor is not exposed. Otherwise, with the size of Dahua, they will only become rats crossing the street. In addition, even if the Lee family is instigated to rebel, it is likely that only a small number of senior officials will know the decision. After all, the blood feud between the hundreds of Lee family members and the snake people is no less than that of other families in the city. It is probably more difficult to make their entire family traitors than to train a family of loyal martyrs. Hong Fan thought carefully and soon sorted out everything. Li Heming, there are many things you must do. Realize fixed assets in advance, prepare a breakthrough for the snake people to break into the city, transfer core members before the rebellion. It is inevitable that you will get stained by leaves when you pass through 1,000 flowers. When Hong Fan walked to the gate of Chori Courtyard, he had already made his goal. Chapter 117 Pressure. It was the 23rd day of the first lunar month, at noon. The sun was high in the sky. The breeze was cool on the skin, but it made the bones feel much warmer. In the hexagonal pavilion of Chorin, there were more than a dozen dishes of meat and vegetables, steaming and fragrant. Some of the vegetables were fried by Aunt Liu, and the rest were sent by the family kitchen. There were 5 people sitting at the table. In addition to the host Hong Fan, there were Hong Shi, Hong Lai, and the 2 young masters Kui and Gao. The purpose of the 3 families in Jinfeng Tower has spread throughout the city, Kui Yudang said, picking up a piece of pig ear and chewing it with a rustling sound. The day before yesterday, they paid a visit to the city guardhouse and the Zhangwen in succession, and all 3 families acted together. I heard from my second uncle that many small clans and surnames are worried. He swallowed a pig ear with a slightly worried expression. This is inevitable, Go Jingsha nodded. The Tongguanggong family is one of the largest families in the western part of Liangzhou. There are 2 high-level Xiantians in his family alone, which is stronger than our Jinhe city. In the circle of the second generation of Jinhe, Hong Fan has a general relationship with the 3 families of Li, Qi and Zheng. On the contrary, Go Jingsha and Kui Yuding are convinced and submissive to him, as if they were tied to a chariot. As Hong Fan's position in the family rises, the relationship between the 2 families becomes closer. The Buddha power of the Yuquan Quan family is also very famous, and every generation has produced brave generals, Go Jingsha continued. To be honest, compared with the 3 families of Jinhe, it is indeed slightly inferior. He has been with Hong Fan for a long time and knows the latter's temperament, so he speaks frankly. The Lu family is relatively weak, but at least it is also the leader of Xiantian and has a strong foundation. Now they seem to be in the right and will not give in. Not to mention others, several elders in my sect are a little shaken. The sect he mentioned refers to the Whirlpool sect. Its leader, Zhexian Lang, has a celestial human connection, and has 13 disciples at the Guanchong realm. You don't have to worry too much, Hong Fan drank a cup and said with a smile. The 3 families came for money. No matter how much trouble this matter causes, it is just a dispute over interests. Now they are making a lot of noise, sending a joint letter to the city guardhouse, and asking Gongsun Wujian for arbitration. They are just using extreme pressure tactics. Just think about it. The 3 families want a total of 30,000 taels. If you invest too much capital, wouldn't it be a waste of time? Here in his comfort, the few people analyzed it a little and immediately felt relieved. By the way, I heard that there was some trouble in Jinfeng Tower yesterday. Hong Fan persuaded them to drink a round of wine and asked again. It was the Li family who started it, Go Jingsha replied. Li Maoke, the eldest son of the 3rd branch of the Li family, was drinking and having fun in my building. During the conversation, he mentioned the matter of asking for money. His words were not very respectful. Several people from the Quan and Lu families heard it and started a fight. Both sides were young and martial artists. They got angry and went to the yard to fight. As a result, Li Miaoke's face was swollen, but I heard that Hong Ping also went there later. Hong Fan frowned and asked, how did the Li family's affairs involve him? This time it was Hong Shi who spoke up. Li Maoke, the 2nd son of the chief family, and Hong Ping have always been close friends, fighting and running against each other. They are very close, he sighed. And Hong Ping reached Guantong realm before the new year, and joins Huai cavalry after the new year. The eldest lady was unwilling at first, and wanted him to go to the prefecture to follow my father, Hong Pan, so that he could be taken care of by his mother's family, but the boy kept saying that his 2 brothers were in Huai cavalry, and he had also killed sand bandits in Taishan. and he was determined not to be a deserter. In the end, he came to the second team, and he was under my command. Hong Shi said this, and stretched out his hand to press his eyebrows. According to the old rules of Zhuai cavalry, he, as the captain of the second team, was obviously the one responsible for leading Hong Ping, just like Hong Lai and Hong Fan in the past. But how could a domineering boy like Hong Ping be so easy to manage? Yesterday, Li Miaoke was beaten, so he came to Hong Ping to help. According to his unruly personality, he naturally took on a lot of responsibilities. Hong Shi sighed. Hong Lai laughed when he heard this. Even with Hong Ping's serious cultivation in Guantong realm, can he take on everything? Hong Ping is not stupid enough to do it himself, Hong Shi said. Sheng and Fan didn't have the guts to instigate, so they wanted to involve me first. The clan didn't have any intention on this, and I'm not stupid, so of course I refused, but I didn't expect that he would go find Su Ting and the others later. Hong Shi didn't say anything more. But Hong Fan knew what he meant. Hong Ping was the youngest son, the younger brother of Hong Sheng and Hong Fan. Although Su Ting and the others were much better in cultivation, they were just from good families with different surnames, so it was normal that they couldn't withstand the pressure. In the end, Hong Ping won, Go Jingsha added. The three boys from the Quan and Lu families were beaten, and your brother only suffered a little injury, but everyone could see that the worry in Hong Fan's eyes had not dissipated. Are you worried that those families will come to you for this matter? Hong Lai asked. I'm not worried about that, Hong Fan shook his head. These fierce dragons coming across the river are coming fiercely. Whether Hong Ping has this incident or not, they will confront us sooner or later. I just think that Li Miaoke's incident is a bit too coincidental. He picked up a pistachio shell on the table and crushed it into powder. You all know that Li Jiahogling is very strict in managing the family. He is not as lazy as our clan leader. Hearing this, everyone at the table straightened their backs and forced themselves to be serious. These 2 days are sensitive times. Where did Li Miaoke get the courage to go to Jinfeng Tower to cause trouble? Hong Fan looked at Go Jingsha with a smile on his face. I'll be honest. If we only talk about wine and food, Tinghe Pavilion is still half a level higher than yours, right? Gao Dashao raised his eyebrows and opened his mouth to refute, but he saw Kui Yudeng, Hong Shi, and Hong Lai nodding in his peripheral vision. So he had to raise his glass and drink, swallowing his words back into his stomach. After talking about the current affairs in the city, the topic at the table turned to the latest 4 lists. This time, our Liang Zhao's Xianjiao has changed. Everyone was talking excitedly. Flipping the river dragon Ao Siji, a native of Zijing, is the son of Ao Fuwei, the leader of the Fubo gang, and practices the water solution code. He is 3 years older than Brother Fan, and he is on the list of Xianren Jia Oxiang today, ranking 97th on the Xianjiao list. Speaking of which, the eldest son is also the same age, and his cultivation is only a hair's breadth away. Who knows, in 3 years, my Hong family will have the scene of 2 heroes in one family. After several rounds of drinking and entertainment, the cups and plates were in a mess. There were 3 empty wine jars under the table. Thanks to the second young master for entertaining you today. I will be the host next time. Go Jingsha stood up by the table, his steps slightly shaky. I will send someone to invite you all then it must be in the Jinfeng Tower, Hong Lai asked with a deliberate smile. No, Go Jingsha waved his hand quickly. Half of the rooms in the building have been reserved by those 3 families. I guess a large group will come soon. I also plan not to go to the building next time to avoid these evil stars. He staggered and held on to the pillar of the pavilion. Besides, the second young master said that Tinghe Pavilion is better in terms of dishes. Listening to his weird imitation, a burst of hearty laughter flew out from under the pavilion. Chapter 118, A Movable Arena. 2 days later, on the 25th day of the first lunar month, at noon, Gao Jingsha kept his word and sent out invitations to book a room on the 3rd floor of Tinghe Pavilion. Considering that Hong Fan didn't like socializing very much, he didn't invite too many people, just enough to fill the 10 seats on a round table. In addition to the 8 young masters, Zhang Fuqiu and Qi Yi were also invited. Hong Shi was so happy that he patted Gao Jingsha on the shoulder several times in the dark, as if they were close brothers. At noon, it was not a festival, so Hong Sheng, Li Shenji, and Ding Yushi, who were busy with daily affairs, could not be invited. Therefore, the most prestigious person present was Hong Fan. With a recommendation of Gao and Kui, he sat at the top in the middle. Then Qi Xinqi and Zhang Fuqiu sat on the left and right sides. It had been nearly 3 months since Hong Fan first visited Tinghai Pavilion, and Miss Zheng had reconciled with him unconsciously. The so-called politeness or impoliteness is based on status. After the bloody Battle of Taishan, Zhang Fuqiu no longer had a grudge against Hong Fan, but was a little cold when they met. After the Battle of Hongdao Mountain, perhaps because the latter had revealed his amazing fighting power, or perhaps because he avenged her cousin's blood feud, Miss Zheng was particularly serious with Hong Fan, and even had a sense of admiration behind people. Hong Fan was naturally happy to comply. A white, rich and beautiful woman who was only 15 years old was more than a generation younger than him in terms of mental age. How could he take the previous bit of sharp tongue to heart? Today is Gao Daling's host. Let's toast to Daling first. Hong Fan took the lead in starting the first round. After putting down his glasses, everyone saw him take the first chopsticks and stop being polite. Hong Fan had experienced too many such dinners in his previous life, and he could easily lead the topic and take care of everyone present. Coupled with Kui Yudang's jokes, the private room soon became harmonious. At a suitable time, the only child of the Li family present spoke to Hong Fan. Second young Master Hong, when I was in the Jinhai desert, I was so angry that I said some nonsense. His name is Li Xingfa, 2 years younger than Hong Lai, and he is the leader of a team in the Wudan cavalry. When Hong Fan first exposed the Sand World, it was he who took the lead to confront Hong Fan. But now the status of the two has been reversed, and they are no longer the same. Today, I will drink a little wine to apologize to the second young master. Li Xingfa raised his glass with both hands and said. Hong Fan smiled and signaled the waiter to pour wine, and then picked up the wine glass with one hand. Brother Li, if you want to drink, drink, but you have to talk about some old things that I can't remember. The two raised their hands to clink their glasses and drank them, having put aside their previous grudges. Yang Yingxin, who was sitting at the bottom, saw this scene. The master of Fian sect is only in the pure realm. Although he has some status in Fian sect, he is not outstanding in the whole city. Today, he can be seated at the end only because he has a good relationship with Gao Jingsha and was asked to be a supporting role. After Hong Fan, Li Xingfa, and Hong Lai finished recalling the ambush, Yang Yingxin finally mustered up the courage to stand up and toast. I was fortunate to see Master Hong's demeanor in Duanshan Hall that day. Yingxin admired him and never forgot him. I didn't expect to be able to drink with you at the same table today. It's really an honor. Although he was the lowest ranking person present, the flattery in his words still caused Zhang Fuqiu to roll her eyes. Just when Yang Yingxin was embarrassed, the handsome young man sitting at the top stood up with his wine glass. This was completely beyond his expectations. Gao Daling and I are of the same mind, just like brothers with different surnames. Hong Fan smiled gently. Since you are Daling's good brother, we are naturally close. Today is the first time we sit at the same table, and there will be the second and third time in the future. But next time you want to toast, don't stand up again. After hearing this, Gao Jingsha's face naturally flushed, and he stood up and raised his glass to drink with him. Yang Yingxin's face was red, and his hands were shaking so much that he almost spilled the wine. Thank you, sir. It was Yingxin who was presumptuous. With Hong Fan accepting the glass of wine, Yang Yingxin's smile suddenly became less restrained, and he was able to connect with the people at the same table. It was a good banquet, and both the host and the guests were happy. However, half an hour later, an unexpected guest came. The waiter outside the door was shouted away, and 3 unrestrained knocks on the door were heard outside the private room. Before Gao Jingsha could ask a question, the door was pushed open. 3 people came out from behind the screen in the entrance hall, followed by a sweaty manager of Tinghai Pavilion. The first 2 were tall, muscular, and looked to be in their 20s. The third wore a scholar's hat and a sword at his waist. Dear friends of Jinhai, I am Yuquan Quan Huang, sorry to bother you. The leading man stood in front of the table and bowed to the head. Behind him, the other 2 also gave their names, Quan Yanghu, Lu Xingchao. The 3 names were like a sudden rainstorm that hit the room, instantly extinguishing the hot atmosphere at the wine table. Such a scene frightened Qi Yiyu so much that her face turned pale. Zhang Fuqiu raised her chin and glared at them fiercely. You 3 came uninvited, but you still know how to greet each other. It's really rare. Hong Fan leaned back on the chair, glanced at the 3 people, and looked at Quan Huarong. Hongxi, who was standing next to him, folded his arms and sneered, Gao Dalin, I have always heard that the upper room in your Jinfang building is expensive. Are you forced to come here to beg for alms? The three people didn't care at all after being stabbed in the face by the two Hongs. It is indeed Quan who disturbed your feast, Quan Huarong said, turning to look at the manager of Tinghe Pavilion. Send someone to the upper room of Jinfeng Tower to collect the money for this table of food and wine. Just tell me my name. After sending away the obstructing person, he looked at Hong Fan again. We three just arrived in Jinhe yesterday, and we heard that my cousin was taught by the Hong family in Jinfeng Tower 3 days ago. He has been served by servants for the past few days. Today, I heard that you are drinking and having fun here, so I have to come to repay this favor. You are new here, but you are very smart, Hong Fan said frankly. You are talking about a matter of Li Maoke and Hong Ping, right? What do you want to explain? That's exactly it, Quan Huarong nodded and replied. My brother is not good at it, so he was beaten. He is too embarrassed to come and ask for compensation, but we, as brothers, have to express our gratitude, he said with his hands behind his back, looking down at the whole audience. I came here today to fight with you in the way of martial artists, whether we win or lose, this matter is over. After hearing this, Hong Fan laughed out loud. What a good whether you win or lose, the matter is over, he slapped the table with his palm. The tabletop was intact, but the bowls, chopsticks and plates on the table suddenly jumped. When the younger one gets beaten, the older one comes to the rescue. If the older one gets beaten again today, will the older one come next time? After he asked this, the three of them were speechless for a moment. Master Hong, are you afraid? After a moment, Lu Xingqiao drew his sword to challenge him. It's okay to digest the food after eating and drinking, Hong Fan replied, not surprised that the other party recognized him. If you want to identify him in Jinhe City, you don't need a second sentence to introduce him, the most handsome guy in the crowd is him. If you want to fight, you have to accept my bet. Chapter 119 But the power. Fighting in the middle of the day will inevitably disturb people's peace, Hong Fan said. If the three of you lose, the steward will take you to each room on the 4 floors of Tinghe Pavilion, apologize, and pay for the meal. How? He asked with a frown. So it is, Quan Huarong accepted it on the spot. Everyone went downstairs in a team. Not long after, the carriages parked in the backyard of Tinghe Pavilion were cleared out, but the gate was not closed. Since the prize is set by the second young Master Hong, then the rules of the competition will follow ours, Quan Yanghu said. Have you heard of Yukon City's immovable arena? He was about 1.8 meters tall, with a scar on his left cheek and calluses on his hands as thick as armor. Most of Hong Fan and others nodded. A movable arena is a very famous literary fighting method in Yukon City. The two contestants stand at a specified distance and take turns to attack and defend. During the period, they cannot move or touch the ground with a third point of their body. If one party breaks the rules or loses the ability to fight, the winner will be decided. 3-3, Hong Lai asked. Of course not 3-3, Quan Huarong replied proudly. Excluding the 2 girls, there are 8 of you, so it's 3-8. As soon as the voice fell, before the few people could reply, Quan Yanghu had already strode out of the line and stood still. Who will come to the 6 paths of the Pure Land and practice the family-inherited Buddha power? He rolled up his sleeves, and the scar on his face twisted like a centipede when he spoke. I'll go first. Among the 8 people, Yang Yingxin was the first to speak. He drank the most wine at the banquet just now, and was valued by Hong Fan. He felt that his heart was full of excitement and had nowhere to release it. Yang Yingxin of Fian sect is also a 6 paths of the Pure Land. He held Quan Yanghu's gaze without fear. My sect specializes in swordsmanship. Is it possible to use a sword without moving the ring? Yang Yingxin asked. Of course there is no reason why it can't be done, Lu Xingqiao, who is holding a sword beside him, replied. Then I won't be polite. Yang Yingxin drew his saber and stood 3 steps away from the opponent. The name of the saber is Xuan Guang, and it's sharp as a feather. The goose feather blade and the reverse blade sparkled in the sun. It was the 4th grade treasure made by Kui sword forging master Chu Deshu. HMPH, Quan Yanghu snorted coldly, untied a piece of leather belt with bronze round nails from his waist and wrapped it around his right fist, and then moved his position forward 1 foot. His arms were long, and although his striking range was not as good as that of a weapon, it was not short. The noise in the yard spread upwards, causing many private rooms in Tinghe Pavilion to open their windows and look down. Let you go first, Quan Yanghu said conceitedly, not caring about the people watching, only the intention of winning. Okay, Yang Yingxin straightened his saber muscles, and as soon as he spoke, the long saber chopped down at the same time. In an instant, the saber light seemed to reach Kuan Yanghu before the sound. Although the fowling goose knife passed down by Fia insect is only a 4th grade martial art, it has always been known for its sharpness. With a clanging sound, the knife hit the copper nail, cutting out a large handful of sparks and leaving a deep mark. The blade was not damaged at all. "You are not good at martial arts, but you are good at knives," Kuan Yanghu sneered. "Take it, I will hit you in the middle with this palm." He turned the copper nail belt to the palm of his hand, and used all his true energy to cover it with a palm. Although the immovable ring cannot be moved, it allows dodging. However, Yang Yingxin relied on the sharp weapon in his hand and just twisted the blade and held it horizontally in front of him. The bronze and black iron collided again, splashing out copper chips. Kuan Yanghu retracted the move casually, but Yang Yingxin's face changed drastically. The latter felt a dull pain in the palm of his hand when he took the palm with the knife. Obviously, with the same cultivation, his strength is far inferior to that of his opponent. The lower plate of the immovable ring is locked, and it is difficult to dodge and release the force. Every attack and defense is a head-on collision. Yang Yingxin's mind flashed, "If we continue to fight, I'm afraid I'll lose. It's your turn." Seeing him silent, Kuan Yanghu shouted in a deep voice, not giving him any time to recover. Yang Yingxin had no choice but to take action. "The move I'm going to use is called Wild Goose Falling, be careful," he said, and then he slashed with his backhand, causing his opponent to block. But just as the moves were about to connect, the Zhuangguang blade suddenly deviated, and just happened to reflect the scorching sunlight into Kuan Yanghu's eyes. This is the killer move of Fia insect, Wild Goose Falling. For martial arts masters, this move is not very clever. It is nothing more than estimating the angle of light through long-term, hard training to defeat the enemy, the kind that Hong Li doesn't like. But in actual combat, a moment's mistake can mean the difference between life and death. The sunlight was dazzling, and Kuan Yanghu suddenly lost his vision, and his right hand swung in vain. At the same time, Yang Yingxin had turned the blade and clenched his hands to chop it down. This knife hit the opponent's hastily raised wrist. The sound of metal and iron rose. Needless to say, the hardness and sharpness of the black iron blade. The thick iron-lined wrist guard was cut straight, and then the goose feather knife pressed into the flesh and bones. That was all, not even much bleeding. "It's just a trick, you got a little advantage." Kuan Yanghu gritted his teeth and laughed, his left hand hanging down, and there were only slight cuts on the exposed bones. "Could this man's bones be made of iron?" Zhang Fuqiu exclaimed, and grabbed Qi Yao beside her with both hands. She had seen many martial arts competitions, but this was the first time she had seen such a brutal one. Before Miss Zhang could recover, Kuan Yanghu had already hit the second chopping palm. It was still in the middle, and it was still without any fancy. The copper nail hit the blade, and still forced Yang Yingxin to groan. After taking 2 moves, his wrist was already damaged. This is the difference in martial arts level. The Buddha power of the Yuquan Quan family is also considered excellent in the 3rd grade martial arts, while the falling goose knife practiced by the Fia insect is only the 4th grade. The difference in foundation is too big. In the 3rd round, Yang Yingxin feinted with a straight thrust, then changed to horizontal slash. But the effect was not as good as Yan Luo, splitting a copper nail. It was Kuan Yanghu's turn again. After 3 rounds, Zhuan Guang smashed 3 copper nails, but Yang Yingxin's hands were full of injuries, and blood was already dripping from his knuckles. Everyone could see that the outcome was decided. "Young Master Yang, that's enough," Hong Fan said. "Sir, I still have the strength to fight again," Yang Yingxin replied with pain, unwilling to admit defeat easily. For him, today's opportunity to become famous in the top circle of Jinhe is really rare. "It's okay," Hong Fan persuaded again. "Everyone can see how swift and sharp your swordsmanship is. Today's unmovable ring is beneficial to the Quan family's skills," he said, motioning everyone to look at Kuan Yanghu's feet. Everyone looked and found that the hard soil on the ground had been stepped into half an inch by his feet, and countless inconspicuous radioactive cracks appeared around it. The power of those slashes just now was actually dissipated. Kui Yudang suddenly realized. Mr. Hong has a keen eye. Quan Huarong sighed when he saw that his family's martial arts was seen through in just 3 moves. After all, he was a child of a wealthy family, and he was not petty when seeing this, and directly pointed out the characteristics of the family's martial arts. For those who practice Buddha power, As long as the hips and legs are stable, the whole body will be integrated like a Buddha pagoda, which is not only good at dissipating power, but also can increase strength. He said this with a very proud tone. No wonder the Yuquan family has many powerful generals. Isn't it just a good way to play to their strengths and avoid their weaknesses when fighting on horseback? Hong Fan immediately drew inferences from one example. Next time if I fight with you on horseback, I will go for the horses first. Quan Hurong was stunned when he heard this, and was obviously surprised at the other party's quick reaction. After listening to this conversation, Zhang Fuqiu's eyebrows gradually raised. It's said to be a fair fight, but it turns out that you want to take advantage of the rules. She put her hands on her hips and scolded. Chapter 120, Unarmed Sword. Miss Zhang, what you said is so unfair, Lu Xingqiu said, not angry. We are indeed more familiar with the rules of non-movement, but you must know that today we are 3 against 8. Do you think that this is not enough? Zhang Fuqiu frowned when she heard this, but was speechless. Yang Yingxin obeyed Hong Fan's intention and admitted defeat. Then Hong Fan was not polite and pointed Kui Yudang to go up. Kui Yudang of the Kui family of Jinhe has mastered the 7 orthodox meridians and practiced a breaking mountain art. Young Master Kui took a stance and signaled his opponent to attack first. The Buddha's palm fell down, but was blocked by the arm, making a loud bang. Kui Yudang's face was slightly pale, and he calmed down after a breath. Then he punched Quan Yanghu, making him gasp. Although the Kui family's breaking mountain art is a 4th-grade martial art, the power is low, but the power is strong and stable, which is remarkable. Masters like Chu Deshu of Tiangtang also rely on this martial art to forge iron into steel. The dull attack and defense lasted for 8 rounds. In the end, Quan Yanghu won. Kui Yudang was defeated, but he didn't seem depressed. The Kui family focuses on business operations, and the young Master Kui himself is also a literary style. He practices martial arts, but his actual combat is mediocre. Relatively speaking, the hard-hitting, movable ring that doesn't require much experience in fighting enemies is more suitable for him to display his cultivation and consume his opponents. Hong Fan gave a look, and Gao Dalin immediately stepped out. Gao Jingsha of the Jinhe Whirlpool sect has mastered the 10 orthodox meridians and practiced a whirlpool power. Gao Jingsha called out his name loudly, and after landing, he was not polite, and used all his strength to use the spinning palm, hitting the chest like hitting an iron target during a hunting meeting. At that time, the black iron wrist was broken by a single blow, let alone a human body. Quan Yang, who was already at the end of his strength, and his cultivation was 4 orthodox meridians behind his opponent, so he couldn't stand a single blow. After stumbling back 3 steps, he nodded to show his defeat, and then stepped aside to bandage a bone wound on his wrist. The next person to come up to the ring was Lu Xingqiu. Lu Xingqiu of the Yuquan Lu family has mastered the 9 orthodox classics and practiced the unarmed sword. He asked with a smile, holding the sheathed long sword. Master Gao, is it my turn to attack first? It seemed that they were not going to fight, but to play chess with a friend. You come. Gao Jingsha had just defeated an opponent, and his heart was full of energy, so he replied casually. As he spoke, the sound of a sword suddenly sounded. Lu Xingqiu thrust his sword horizontally. The speed of his sword was so fast and the sound of the sword was so exciting that it made people feel like they were facing a great enemy. Gao Jingsha used both hands to rotate his palm power and used the move of clamping the white blade with bare hands to break the long sword. However, after he made the move, Lu Xingqiu's straight sword blade filled with true energy suddenly bent, bypassed a blockade, and pierced the opponent's hair bun with one sword. Thank you. Lu Xingqiu put the sword back into the sheath without any hesitation, and his smile became even bigger. There is no need to say more about the victory or defeat. Since the sword just now could penetrate the bun, if he wanted, he could naturally go down 2 inches. You used a soft sword. Gao Jingsha stood there with his hair disheveled, so angry that he couldn't speak coherently. Lu Xingqiu just spoke lightly. The physical is called a tool, a famous sword is like water, and a gentleman should be like this. At this time, Gao Dalin, who had a low level of education, was even more speechless and could only end up depressed. The metaphysical is called Tao, and the physical is called a tool. Well said, Li Xingfa sighed when he heard it. My Jinhe Li family's invisible key sword ranks 2nd in the killing method, and I am willing to compete with Mr. Lu. He saw that the other party's swordsmanship was sharp, but he was eager to fight. Li Xingfa, you have mastered the 8 paths. The two men stood 4 steps apart and started the first round of confrontation with their eyes. At this time, Hong Fan suddenly interrupted. Mr. Lu's long sword has only the tip of the sword sharpened. I guess the sword is mainly used for stabbing and poking, and rarely for chopping and cutting. Li Xingfa nodded repeatedly. He didn't notice this detail just now. Lu Xingchao frowned slightly. Mr. Hong, a true gentleman is silent when watching chess. Hong Fan smiled and just replied with the 4 words, a gentleman values power. The duel between the two swordsmen began immediately. Li Xingfa used 3 key swords, chasing the wind, thunder and spiral, to fight the enemy, killing the swords in the courtyard in early spring. Among them, the thunder sword would shake the tiles every time it was released, and the onlookers and passers-by would be frightened. On the other side, Lu Xingchao's style was meticulous, and his long sword moved like a spirit snake, deflecting the key swords one by one. The two sides held out for a long time, and in the end, Li Xingfa was the first to show a decline. One reason is that his cultivation is lower, and the other is that the invisible sword consumes more energy. After all, this is a rare long-distance killing method in the realm of strength. Fighting with the opponent is like fighting with arrows. After the two of them had each made 17 moves, Li Xingfa was unable to recover his breath and was circumvented by the sword and pointed at his throat. There were still 4 people left on the Jinhe side. Qi Xinqi, who was eager to fight, looked at Hong Fan and found that the other party was also looking at him. Please clean up the mess, Hong brother, Hong Fan bowed and asked. Qi Xinqi immediately agreed, took off his outer robe and handed it to his sister, and went into battle in a full set of strength. Qi Xinqi of the chief family of Jinhe has mastered the 12 meridians. Most of the Yanqiao meridians are open, and he has practiced the iron clothes skill. As he spoke, he activated the iron clothes body, and the skin and flesh all over his body hardened instantly. His palms were strengthened again with the high-level secret method iron cover, which was enough to break metal. Lu Xingchao's face was particularly solemn. The eldest son of the Jinhe Qi family was naturally their focus, especially Qi Xinqi, who is already a master of the quasi-Hunran realm at the age of 20, and could be said to be the best in the city. The result was not unexpected. Even though Lu Xingchao repeatedly used strange moves, each sword could only pierce the opponent's skin at most, and could not even penetrate the muscles. And Qi Xinqi was not anxious, but just took steady steps, trying to hit the target with each punch. After 7 rounds, he only consumed a small part of his true energy, and beat Lu Xingchao to spit blood and fall back. Brother Lu, don't force yourself, I will take over next. Quan Huarong stepped forward to support his partner and whispered. There were obviously 4 people waiting to fight in front of him, but there was no pressure in his voice, all excitement. Again, I am Quan Huarong, practicing Buddha power, and I have mastered 11 regular cultivations. The 12th is almost there. Quan Huarong strode forward and stood proudly at an arm's length from Qi Xinqi. Among the younger generation of Jinhe, the latter is considered strong, but compared to the former, he is actually smaller. Young Master Qi, please go ahead. The opponent's words were contemptuous, but Qi Xinqi didn't care, and just blasted out the iron fist. Quan Huarong easily caught it with one hand and smiled silently. The iron armor is good at defense but not attack. The bare-handed attack was easily dumped into the ground by the Buddha's power, and it didn't do much damage. It's my turn. Quan Huarong raised his right hand high and slowly accumulated strength. From his palm, the wind and waves surrounded like boiling water, and the sound of bees buzzed. The killing move made the air pressure along the way hazy. This palm covered Qi Xinqi's crossed arms, causing him to tremble all over, and his face changed greatly. Under the iron armor, a large patch of dark red blood appeared. The people of Jinhe who were watching suddenly felt heavy in their hearts. The iron armor body at the peak of the penetration realm can withstand 7 or 8 arrows, even if it is naked to receive the armor-piercing arrows. How can it break the defense with one palm? Besides, Qi Xinqi has an advantage in cultivation. P.S. It's the beginning of the month, brothers, please vote. Chapter 121, Grinding Wool Palm. Qi Xinqi suddenly fell into disadvantage, which was beyond everyone's expectation. Even the discussions coming from the windows of the Hage Pavilion were suddenly cut off. Is this the grinding wool palm? Li Xingfa, the oldest person present, saw a clue. After all, you are a prominent family that has produced the sword Screaming Crane, so you have some knowledge, Quan Yang replied proudly. This is the grinding wool palm, ranked second in the Musashi of this Hangwu Academy. In my family, There are only 2 or 3 people in each generation who can practice it in the Guanchong realm. While speaking, the unmoving fight continued. Quan Hurong, who entered the second round of attack, blasted out with one palm. The palm power surged like a tide, pushing layer by layer, hitting Qi Xinqi's shoulder. Although the latter's skin was not broken or injured, he could not withstand the penetrating force. After only 2 palms, Qi Xinqi's mouth was bleeding, and even the iron armor was almost broken. So he first secretly glanced at Zhang Fuqiu, and when he saw that the girl turned her face away from him, he looked at Hong Fan again. "Brother Fan, I am no match for him," Qi Xinqi said with a bitter smile. Quan Hurong won easily and wanted to mock him, but seeing his opponent so honest, he didn't know what to say for a moment. "This is not a crime of war, but a martial arts restraint." Hong Fan also smiled. He never had any bad feelings towards the honest young master of the Qi family. The key to the Quan family's grinding will palm is probably high energy and high frequency vibration, Hong Fan speculated. Your iron armor is integrated and indestructible by swords and knives. It becomes a medium against the grinding will palm, causing most of the palm power to penetrate into the inside. Even though Quan Hurong has excellent self-control, he was moved when he heard this. In Yukon City, the Lu family's unarmed sword emphasizes insight, and there is a martial arts proverb that the enemy is not as good as the yin. But even the most outstanding people in the Lu family do not have the ability of the man in front of him to see the big picture from the small details and hit the target with one arrow. Mr. Hong's eyesight is really amazing. Quan Hurong didn't even look at Qi Xinqi, who was defeated, and his pair of tiger eyes stared straight at Hong Fan. "I wonder how good your skills are at seeing," he challenged. "My family has been in the army since I was young, and I have experienced many battles, but unfortunately I have never been an opponent of the Star Lord. Please come down and fulfill my wish, Mr. Hong." Just as he was about to fight, his sight was cut off by a figure. "If you want to fight the Star Lord of my clan, you have to get past me first." Hong Lai strode forward. Then he was held by Hong Shi's shoulders. "Cousin, why don't you give me this opportunity?" Hong Shi moved his shoulders and neck, and his joints creaked. He had been promoted to the peak of penetration for a long time, but he was always stuck in the first strange vein. He needed some fierce battles as an opportunity to break through. Hong Lai glanced at Qi Yao, who was taking care of his brother, and nodded to make way. Hong Shi of the Hong family in Jinhe has reached the peak of cultivation and is practicing the Yanliu Guang, under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Hong Shi stood on the footprints left by Qi Xinqi and looked up at Quan Hurong. He was handsome, but it was a pity that he was defeated in 2 rounds. It was because the power of the grinding will palm was too strong. Although this move was slow to accumulate power, it was bound by the rule of not moving the ring, so Hong Shi could only endure it. "Both of them have reached the peak," Quan Yanghu said, glancing at the carbonization on Quan Hurong's arrow sleeves. "My cousin is among the top 5 in the younger generation of the Quan family in terms of combat power. It is normal for you to lose to him." His words seemed to be comforting, but everyone in Jinhe found them harsh. Zhang Fuqiu put her hands on her waist, wanting to return the favor, but she had nothing to say. Having the advantage of cultivation, but still being challenged by 2 people at once, talking about rules at this time would become an excuse. "Are you going to lose?" She glanced at Hong Fan and Hong Lai, but found that they looked normal. Hong Shi, who had just lost, hugged his forearm and came to Qi Xinqi, without any tension. It was as if he knew that the opponent was destined to lose. "Brother Hong, we are not prepared today. If we were to compete with weapons, we might not lose," Hong Shi whispered. Then Qi Yao, who was taking care of his brother, puffed up his round face and glared at him, and immediately shut up. "I have defeated 2 people at the peak of penetration. Can Mr. Hong make a move now?" After Quan Hurong recovered a little, he looked at Hong Fan with disdain. The latter was naturally looking at him. After more than half a year, Hong Fan grew 3 centimeters taller, almost 1.78 meters. Quan Hurong was at least half a head taller than him, and his figure was nearly twice as sturdy. "My cousin injured you. Do you need a few days to recover?" Hong Fan asked, looking at the burn on his opponent's forearm. "No need," Quan Hurong said domineeringly. "I have suffered some flesh wounds, but my fighting power is intact and I still have most of my ki. Mr. Hong should think more about yourself." Hong Fan nodded. "I understand. I will do my best to decide the outcome before your ki runs out." Hong Fan took off his sword White Disaster and handed it to Hong Lai. Seeing this, Quan Hurong deliberately added, Please feel free to use it. If you don't use weapons, don't regret it. Don't worry, I will use them. Hong Fan smiled. Halfway through his words, the courtyard suddenly blew up with wind and sand. The wind made the sound ethereal, the sand blurred the world. Hong Fan walked towards the other party, and every step he took made the whistling sand more violent, and in a moment it felt like it was covering the sky and the sun. When he stood one step in front of Quan Huang, the sand merged into a stream, pounced down in all directions like a flying dragon, and returned to its owner. With a human body as the skeleton, the desert sand armor was quickly put on and formed in one piece. Quan Huang could not help but retreat half a step. Quan Yanghu and Lu Xingqiao were even more shocked. I forgot to inform you in advance that my cultivation is 9 paths of perfection, and I am still 1/10 away from the 10th path. Hong Fan's high-spirited and domineering voice came from under the armor. Moreover, similar to your family's Buddha power, my Fate Star Sand World is also very good at positional warfare. He didn't need to say this, everyone with eyes in the scene had already seen it. Since the immovable ring does not need to consider mobility, and Hong Fan's cultivation has improved, this time he activated the armor to a height of 2.5 meters, and the thickest part of the breastplate is more than 1 foot. When the two stood one step apart before, Quan Huang's head only touched Hong Fan's chest, while Hong Fan's breastplate almost hid his face. The difference in size between the two sides is like that of a jackal and a tiger. The discussions upstairs stopped. Zhang Fuqiu stared at Hong Fan, who had transformed into a giant god in golden armor, and then she understood the concept of destroying the rain of arrows, charging and defeating that was circulated in the city after the Battle of Hongdao Mountain. This kind of deterrence, normal people would not want to fight after seeing it, right? Is this the weapon that the second young master mentioned? Quan Huang's Adam's apple rolled, and he looked up at the majestic King Kong in front of him and forced a smile. Oh, by the way, there are weapons, Hong Fan said suddenly. Quan's heart skipped a beat. I would have forgotten if you hadn't said it. Hong Fan bent down and picked it up from the ground. His left hand directly pulled out a 2-meter-high and 10-centimeter-thick tower shield. I'm ready, Brother Quan, just go ahead and don't worry about hurting me. Looking at the shield in front of him that was taller than himself, Quan Huang, who was shrouded in the shadow, swallowed his saliva. How could he say anything? Chapter 122 Crushing. Quan Huang's experience in battles is not boasting. Even though the desert sand armor looks horrifying, he still has not lost his fighting spirit. It's just that this time, the grinding will palm takes longer to accumulate power than usual. Seeing this, Hong Fan slightly lowered the hardness of the sand shield to form a soft outside and hard inside combination with the armor. This is the buffer energy absorption structure widely used in the automobile industry in the past. Quan Huang took a deep breath and blasted out with a palm, hitting the tower shield. He had no other place to hit anyway. The high-frequency vibration of the Buddha's true ki blasted the desert sand where the palm landed, and the shield surface was even more rippled like water waves. This is a manifestation of force dissipation. A moment later, the 10-centimeter-thick sand shield was penetrated. Quan Huang's face was delighted, and he exerted force to penetrate his fingers and palms into the breastplate. But he only pressed in half a foot, and the fist's power was exhausted. The sand-cast armor slowly regained its shape. At this time, Quan Huang suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Around his right arm, the cold sand was wriggling and locked. It was like a beast moving its mouth parts, preparing to chew. He suddenly pulled out his hand, but failed to pull it out. Not good at martial arts, but good at killing, Hong Fan commented. Okay, now it's my turn. No, Quan Huang interrupted quickly. I haven't retracted my hand yet, so I can't defend. Then just retract it, Hong Fan laughed. Quan Huang had to exert force again, but unfortunately his posture was awkward and it had no effect. At this moment, the rule of not moving the ring and not moving the feet became a restriction for him. What's wrong? Do you not retract it, or can't retract it? Hong Fan asked with concern. Hong Lai hugged his arms and couldn't help laughing, while Zhang Fuqiu and Qi Yayu burst into laughter. Quan Huang exerted force again, his face flushed, and his back was soaked with sweat. I can't retract it, he said in a very low voice. Can't attack, can't retreat, does this count as a loss? Hong Fan asked with his head down. Attack and defense are based on rounds. Just now it was my attack round, so of course it doesn't count. Quan Huang was anxious. Okay, if you say it doesn't count, then it doesn't count. Hong Fan didn't waste any words, and dispersed the shackles of the desert sand. allowing the opponent to pull out his arm. Then, he spoke again. But if I attack, I'm afraid that Brother Quan will have to find a servant to serve him food and water in the next few days like your brother. The sand shield disappeared along with the voice. Hong Fan clenched his right hand with 5 fingers, and attracted the sand's flow on the ground like a giant whale sucking water. From his palm, a huge hammer appeared inch by inch, and its hammer head was round and about 50 centimeters in diameter. Even if calculated according to the density of ordinary sand, this hammer weighs at least 200 kilograms. Using such a heavy weapon not only requires the exhaustion of Hong Fan's physical strength, but also requires the assistance of the super distance control of the sand world. How terrifying the power of this attack is, even the 2 little girls who are not very good at martial arts can imagine it. Quan Huarong's face has turned black. His forehead was covered with beads of sweat, and his lips were pale. Huarong, how about? Quan Yanghu, who was standing next to him, tried to persuade him with a trembling voice. Shut up, Quan Huarong cursed in a deep voice. At this moment, it was the heroic spirits of the ancestors of the Quan family in Yukon City and the glory of the family that supported him. Just come, he crossed his arms and shouted hoarsely. Before he finished speaking, he was torn to pieces by the mighty storm. Under the attack of the huge golden gourd, Quan Huarong was like a mantis on a chariot. His arms were shaken apart, his bones were broken. The Buddha's power had no time to deal with the overflowing kinetic energy, and it was broken cleanly. Quan Huarong flew 7 or 8 meters horizontally, rolled to the ground, and his arms were bent at a strange angle. Blood gushed out on the ground. Even so, this was the result of Hong Fan's letting him go. Tinghai Pavilion was frozen for a moment, and no one dared to speak. Why don't you go and treat his wounds? Hong Fan dispersed his armor and shouted. Quan Yanghu and Lu Xingqiao were as if they had been pardoned, and hurried forward to help their partner up. When the hammer fell, the defeated Quan Huarong looked more relaxed. I won the advice from Master Hong today, and I will never forget it. He gritted his teeth and stood up. He was in great pain, but he pretended to be fine. We lost this fight. The 3 of us will leave Jinhei City tomorrow. After the exposed wound on his arm was tied tightly by his brothers to stop the bleeding, he bowed to Hong Fan again. We are discussing with peers, not talking about advice, Hong Fan replied indifferently. You are seriously injured, so you don't have to rush to leave. It's okay to rest for a few more days, and I also have something I want you 3 to pass on to your families. He looked around at the 3 people and said slowly. The water in Jinhei is deep and the waves are high. If the snake people come, they will all be drowned. No matter what the clansmen want, please think twice. As soon as these words came out, loud cheers and applause came from all the floors and halls of the Hage. Quan Huarong and the other 2 were speechless. They supported each other as they entered the building and went to pay the bills from floor to floor. Half an hour later, the lunch had already ended. The news that Tinghai Pavilion would not move the ring spread throughout the city of Jinhei under the spread of many spectators. Hong Fan did not go home, but followed Zhang Fuqiu to the traffic hall. This time, he did not need a waitress to receive him, and went directly to the private room in the back hall with Miss Zheng. It was where Feng Zhiwu's blood splashed on the screen. Of course, the screen had been changed. This is the Shiangxin pill you ordered, 3 pills for a total of 150 taels. Seeing Hong Fan sitting down, Zhang Fuqiu did not call for tea and snacks, but directly took out a wooden box and put it on the table. She only put on some light makeup today, painted her upper lip, and wore a water blue long dress. Her long black hair was draped like a waterfall, tied up with a brocade belt, and left a fragrance wherever she went. Hong Fan opened the wooden box, took out the pills one by one for inspection, and then took out 350 tael silver notes. Based on his understanding of Miss Zheng, the latter would not only not overcharge him for this business, but might even give him the cost price directly. The efficacy of Shiangxin pills is very strong. Each pill can be divided into 3 parts and taken with water. Zhang Fuqiu did not touch the banknotes, and casually instructed. Lianao asked the head shopkeeper in the hall, and he said that although Shiangxin pills can greatly improve the efficiency of cultivation in the realm of penetration, it will damage the meridians and leave hidden injuries. It is best not to use 3 pills in succession. Lianao, who was guarding outside the door, curled his lips. I know, thank you Miss Fuqiu, Hong Fan thanked sincerely. After knowing each other for a long time, this was the first time Zhang Fuqiu had a conversation with him alone. And Hong Fan was really too outstanding. His face was like a jade tree, and his temperament was like a mountain. At such a close distance, he stared at her, and the girl seemed to see the bright moon, but her cheeks flushed and she was a little confused. "You spent money to buy it, and I earned your money. Why should you thank me?" Zhang Fuqiu said hesitantly, and turned around and ran away without even saying goodbye. Hong Fan shook his head and smiled, put away the wooden box, stood up and walked to the front hall. At the door, Wei Ying, the leader of the guards of the transportation hall, saw him coming out, and led his men to bow with extra respect. When Fang Ziwu happened, Zhang Zhun was furious and wanted to fire him. Later, Hong Fan privately asked Hong Wu to plead for mercy, and only then did he let this person stay. P.S. The author fell asleep, and today the operation officer trembled and directly posted it on his behalf. I hope everyone will support and vote at the beginning of the month. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Investment. With Xiangxin pills in his arms, Hong Fan returned to Choryuan. It was still early, and Aunt Liu and two little girls were washing celery in the yard while basking in the sun. Putting down the pills, Hong Fan changed into an inconspicuous plain rami cloth shirt, put on a veiled hat, and went out again. For the next hour, he walked along the streets, visiting all the commercial areas such as Inning Street, Chisha Avenue, Yanlu Lane, and Xianjing Hutuang. Hong Fan was not wandering aimlessly. A few days ago, he asked Kui Yuding to help count the ownership of most commercial and residential properties in Jinhei City and mark them on the map. Of course, his excuse was "I have some spare money to invest." Hong Fan received the drawings at noon today, and visited them one by one before it got dark. Sure enough, many shops and courtyards belonging to the Li family were quietly posted with transfer notices. According to the proportion, it is as much as 40% of the total. At night, Mingshan Hall of Hong Mansion. Hong Fan arranged a banquet in the family kitchen, and drank with Kui Yudang in an elegant room. If the second young master hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have noticed it. Young Master Kui looked at the blueprints, and after hearing what Hong Fan said, he suddenly realized that the Li family was looking to transfer a lot of assets. But I did hear from my family that the Li family has withdrawn a lot of cash recently. I thought they were going to make some large purchases or invest in shares. Looking at this posture now, it doesn't seem like it. He stopped talking, and there was a knock on the door. A servant came in and served a plate of braised chicken cubes that had just come out of the pot. I don't care about other people's private affairs. Hong Fan waited for the servant to close the door and said, "It's just that I happen to have 1,800 taels of cash on hand now. It's not a big deal to keep it at home. You also know that I have always been extravagant in my martial arts expenses, so I thought of using this little money to buy some small businesses, so that I can have a steady income." He swallowed a fragrant chicken in his mouth and lowered his voice. "I have visited several of the Li family stores. They have good locations, a lot of people, and the prices are still very cheap now, but as the saying goes, there must be something wrong when things are abnormal. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. It's because its conditions are so good that I dare not buy it." Hong Fan said this and poured himself a glass of wine. "In our circle, when it comes to business ability, Yudang, you have a family background, which is unique, so I have to bother you a little before I can decide whether to spend this 1,800 taels and where to spend it. In the Dahua atmosphere, those who come from merchant families are always 3 points lower in status than those who have inherited the family rank. Kui Yuding usually interacts with the children of the big families, so it is inevitable that he is inferior to them." At this moment, when he heard these words of praise, the 3 points of alcohol he drank suddenly became 10 points strong. "What's so funny about what the second young master said? Everything requires money, so you have to be thrifty." His eyebrows relaxed, and his momentum instantly became half a foot higher. "Besides, 1,800 taels of silver is a lot of money no matter where it is placed. Second young master. Rest assured. Leave this matter to me and I will make sure it is properly arranged for you." He spoke from the bottom of his heart. "Li Xingfa and I are 10 years apart in age, but we are as close as brothers. I will go to him in person tonight. Second young master, if there is any clue behind this matter, I will dig it out for you clearly." The next day, the 26th day of the first lunar month. After being fully stimulated by Hong Fan's subjective initiative, Kui Yuding was extremely efficient. However, after 12 hours, things had already come to light. Duanshan Hall, a small courtyard decorated with a few clumps of yellow bamboo. The wine and food sent by Jinfeng Tower were set on a table. Only Hong Fan, Kui Yudang, and Li Xingfa sat down, and there was no fourth pair of ears. It's nothing serious, just this situation. After 3 rounds of wine, Hong Fan spoke sincerely. Brother Li, please come over here. Let's drink first. How can I say that I'm bothering you when we're treated to delicious food and wine at Jinfeng Tower? Li Xingfa quickly finished his glass of wine. The clan is selling off its properties for some unspeakable reasons. He lowered his voice and said, my second uncle, Li Chengwang, has been stationed in the state capital, responsible for all matters. The news came before that he was addicted to gambling and owed 7 or 8,000 taels of silver in the gambling house in Zijing. Li Xingfa couldn't help but slam the table as he spoke, obviously angry. My uncle is a master of the 7 meridians, and has made many contributions to the clan. Now that he is detained in Zijing, we have to rescue him no matter what. Second young master, you know that there is not much cash in the spoils of the Hongdou Mountain, and it is not easy to sell the things in a short period of time, so the clan has to sell these shops at a low price first. Because of this, my family head was furious. Hearing him say this, Hong Fan nodded slowly. So there is nothing wrong with those shops, all are good, Li Xingfa replied. It's just that family disgrace should not be made public, so the clan tries to keep these transfers low-key. Please don't spread the news. With such a request, the two naturally agreed. After eating and drinking, Kui Yudang sent Huang and Li out. Hong Fan rode a Bentley back to the mansion and went straight to Zionguangyan. That night, Hong Lai received an order to take Sun Li and Kong Hai to the state capital. The 3 of them rode good horses, and they were all Guantong realm warriors, so their speed would naturally be much faster than Zhu Jingfu. At an estimated distance of 170 to 180 miles per day, it would take half a month to go back and forth, the 28th day of the first lunar month. In the side wing of Zionguangyan, all the senior members of the Hong family were present. Hong Wu stood in the hall and reported what he had seen. The Qi family's caravan on the southwest line has returned, saying that they received several anonymous letters on the way, all of which were threatening. The Li family is the same. I heard from Lieutenant Li that the Zijing Yuanxi master shocked 100 miles Jiang Dan, who actually wrote a letter to them, persuading them to try their best to return the property to the Guang family. Speaking of which, when the swords were ringing and the cranes were hanging high on the Xianjiao list, these two were still close friends, he sneered. Yuanxi masters are indeed terrifying, but a letter from a Yuanxi master cannot scare the 6th-rank Jinhe city judge. I heard that many lower-ranking families in the city are a little shaken, Hong Li asked. There is no key realm warrior in their family, so they are naturally weak and can't stand up, Hong Wu replied casually. I also heard an interesting story from Master Wen today. He looked at Hong Fan. The main business of the Gong family is mining jade, which has something to do with the instrument supervisor. Master Wen said that he received a letter from the Tongguang instrument supervisor, promising some benefits and wanted to give us some extra points. Hearing this, all the Hong family members present laughed. With Hong Fan, the rising dragon, the essence of Dahua, there, if they want Wen's Hongwen to deal with the Hong family, I'm afraid that the provincial supervisor will not be able to speak. Just this morning, Quan Keihong and Lu Yiru also came to me, Hong Ming said. They said they were willing to make some concessions to our family privately. Hong Wu sneered at the words. What do you mean? It's just a discount on the previous basis, Hong Ming replied. The 3 families originally wanted us to return 12,000 taels of silver, and Quan Keihong said it could be reduced by another 2,000. Xingjin helped them train their children, so he reduced it by 2,000. Hong Sheng interrupted. The people of Yuquan are petty. A relaxed and happy laughter rang out in the room. Everyone understood that this was probably related to Hong Fan's crushing victory over Quan Hurong in Tinghe Pavilion. In Yuquan City, Quan Hurong was one of the best fighters of the younger generation. He had mastered the grinding will palm when he was at the Guanchong realm. But such a person was in the immovable arena, but he couldn't even take a single move from Hong Fan. Chapter 124 The storm is coming. Halfway through the meeting, the noise inside the room paused. There were footsteps approaching outside the door and stopped at the door. After knocking on the door, it was Chu De who came in. He bowed to everyone and asked Hong Jian for instructions with his eyes before speaking. The Gong family came over and said that a team of more than 10 people from the Gong family just arrived at the Jinfeng Tower. Hong Wu's face became serious. like a sword being unsheathed. "Who are they?" he asked. "A family elder, a team of servants and guards," Chuda replied. "There are also 3 martial arts seeds in their 20s. I heard from the people who came that the eldest son of the Gao family said that the cultivation of the 3 people is at least higher than his. Now we only know the identities of the latter 2. One is Guang Zion and the other is Gong Pu." Chuda bowed and retreated. As soon as the door was closed, the original relaxed atmosphere in the room had dissipated completely. Instead, there was a sense of impending storm. "I've heard of this Gong Zion," Hong Chang, who served as the captain of the Jinhe City Defense Department, said after thinking for a moment. "The legitimate son of the 3rd branch of the Guang family, who is probably just over 20 years old, now has 3 meridians of the Pure Land. At least he has the talent of the eldest son of the chief family." The eldest son of the chief family he mentioned was Qi Zinchi. 3 meridians of the Pure Land can only be ranked after the last 2, Hong Fan asked curiously. "Then I know who the first one is. It was Hong Sheng who took over. Guang Pengyuan, a martial arts genius born out of the illegitimate child of the Gong family, is also the first of the younger generation. He is 5 months older than me. I heard that he broke through the 7th strange meridian of the Pure Land before the new year." He stroked the mahogany handle of the chair with his fingers and palms, and his tone was full of pride. Then he concluded with 5 simple words. "This person is not as good as me." On the 30th day of the 1st lunar month, Chori Courtyard. It was dawn, and the window paper was wet with dew. Hong Fan sat upright on the couch, dissolved the last portion of Shiangxin pills in water, and drank it all. The elixir water was slightly sweet, and he couldn't help smacking his lips. The power of the medicine surged up. The inflammatory qi, which was already circulating steadily, suddenly rose up like a blast furnace that was blown up with wind. In the state of inner vision, the pungent feeling spread along the foot Shaoyuan gallbladder meridian and soon reached the 42nd acupoint Dahua. This acupoint involves the senses of sight and hearing, which makes Hong Fan's ears and eyes hurt. It was in this pain that the blockage of the meridians was quickly cleared. Hong Fan kept guarding the Lingte. Time passed little by little, and the 3 acupoints of Dahua, Xiaxi, and Zuqianhuiyin were opened one by one. When the sun rose and the sky and the earth were bright, the foot Shaoyuan gallbladder meridian had been connected. This is the 11th meridian of the human body. The medicinal power of Shiangxin pills was still left. Hong Fan struck while the iron was hot and guided the true qi and blood to attack the first acupoint, Jingming of the foot Taiyang bladder meridian. By the time the true qi was exhausted and the medicinal power was exhausted, he had opened 6 of the 67 acupoints of the 12th meridian. The merit was complete, and Hong Fan withdrew from inner vision. However, when he was sitting in meditation, he could still feel the faint pungent pain coming from the 3 meridians of the stomach meridian of foot Yangming, the gallbladder meridian of foot Shaoyuan, and the bladder meridian of foot Taiyang. Hong Fan once again used the true essence of the sand world to circulate and wonder, and the tingling sensation was slightly intensified. He clearly wanted to heal, but it was difficult to identify the specific injury. It is very different from the swelling caused by ordinary pills. Hong Fan thought, so this is the hidden injury of medicine is difficult to cure. The continuous use of 3 Shiangxin pills saved him more than 2 months of hard training in a few days. Normally, a drug of this level of efficacy, even if it is only effective for the Guantong realm, cannot be priced at 50 taels per pill. This indirectly shows the stubborn side effects of Shiangxin pills. But Hong Fan doesn't need to worry. He still has a dragon soul fruit hanging on the spiritual platform. If necessary, the dragon blood essence will cleanse the whole body and cure all chronic diseases. Half an hour later, Hong Fan finished washing and changed into a set of martial arts costumes. His cultivation is close to the peak of Guantong, and his physical fitness has naturally increased significantly. His grip strength exceeds the bite force of large beasts in his previous life. He can jump vertically more than 3 meters above the ground. His vision and hearing are significantly enhanced, and he can see the sparrow standing on the branch 100 meters away. His reflex speed is about tens of milliseconds. His squat is as heavy as 2,400 kilograms, which is 1 level higher than Hongbo, who is the first in divine power in the Guantong realm among the Zhuai cavalry. The greater progress comes from martial arts. Seeing that there was no one in the courtyard, Hong Fan took Aunt Liu's bone-cutting kitchen knife from the kitchen and hid in the corner of Chori courtyard. Dahua didn't have a thermometer, so he needed to use other methods to measure the temperature. Holding the blade with both hands, Hong Fan used all his strength to operate the Yan Liu Jin, and white air curled up from his palms. After dozens of seconds, the place where the steel and the flesh palm touched was burned dark red. This shows that the temperature of the Yanliu Jin has reached 500 degrees Celsius. Wearing the desert sand armor, Hong Fan simultaneously urged the firepower on his hand armor, casually grasped a piece of dry wood, and ignited it in an instant. The practical significance of this move is self-evident. In the future, if the opponent is accidentally bitten by the armor, he will face the most severe punishment of burning. After dispersing the sand armor, Hong Fan quietly sent the kitchen knife that lost its hardness after tempering back to the kitchen. Then he began to study the next subject, making quicksand traps. Ideally, this trap should have the following characteristics at the same time. First, it can be made at a distance, and no physical contact is required during the entire deployment process. Second, it does not destroy the soil and vegetation structure on the surface, and no flaws can be seen from the appearance. Third, the deployment time should be fast, preferably in one go between changes of moves. Fourth, it can remain ineffective for a period of time under not completely suitable temperature and humidity. In this way, the trap can not only burst out murderous intent in battle, but also be used as a defense or fortification during camping. With a desert sand armor as a foundation, Hong Fan made rapid progress. After a morning of practice, he could already choose 2 of the 4 characteristics at will. Imagine a life or death battle, where you suddenly miss a step while moving at high speed, and your legs and feet are immediately locked by quicksand. With Hong Fan's explosive power at this time, even a low-level warrior in the Hunran realm would probably have to drink a pot. It was noon, 11 o'clock, and it was just around the corner. The sun made people feel warm all over. Hong Fu slapped the courtyard door as he did in the past, and kept calling Brother Fan, Brother Fan. The two had already agreed that the fat man would be the host today. Hong Fan responded loudly, went back to the house to change into clean clothes, and then went to do Kangju with him arm in arm to drink. It was rare for the top Jinhei to come, and the restaurant owner was overjoyed. Not only did he send 2 dishes, but he also served at the table himself. It was noon. The sun was hanging in the sky, looking at the various aspects of the world in Jinhei City. Outside Chori Courtyard, the young master ate and drank heartily, with oil dripping from his mouth. Inside Chori Courtyard, the old and the young were in chaos. When Aunt Liu was processing the ribs, the blade of the knife was bent. She pulled Tang Daji's sleeve to check whether he bought cheap goods or hid his private money. Just as Tang Daji patted his chest to make assurances, laughter and crying were heard in the yard at the same time. The one laughing was Liu Lu, who was standing with her hands on her waist. The one crying was Tao Hong, who was still holding on to the broom with her calves stuck in the quicksand. P.S. The author is not awake yet. The operation officer will update it for me. Have a happy Monday everyone. TT. It's too late. It's too late. Hurry up and go to the court. Please vote, please vote, please vote. Thank you. Greek letter Phi, Greek letter Omega. Chapter 125 Visit. February 3rd. The rain was light and started to fall early in the morning. At 3 p.m., 4 uninvited guests arrived at the main gate of the Chi family. The head of the Chi family was alarmed, and the servants ran and spread the news throughout the mansion in an instant. It was like a stone falling into an ancient pond, splashing circles of ripples. Chi Xinchi and his cousin hurried out of the door. At first, they only felt the wind was slightly damp and cold, but when they arrived at the martial arts arena, their coats were soaked by the rain. There were already several circles of people in the arena. We have no other intentions. In the center of the crowd, Guangming said to Chi Zihuan with a smile on his face. Several younger generations of my Gong family have come from afar. We have heard of the reputation of the 3 Jinhei families for a long time, so we want to have a fight with the children of your family, that's all. Chi Xinchi pushed through the crowd and entered the inner circle. The first thing he saw was the person who spoke. This person wore a high crown and had a smooth chin. He was about 40 years old. Beside him, 3 young men in navy blue martial uniforms stood proudly. Each of them had a fair complexion, and veins could be seen faintly under their skin. 3 against 3, according to the limit of the Xianjiao ranking, anyone under the age of 24 can fight. There are no other rules. Just stop when the time is right, Guangming said solemnly. Chi Huiyan stood aside with his hands behind his back, his face slightly gloomy, but he did not refuse. He could not refuse. The Gong family came to ask for a fight, and it was clear that they were ready to fight. Being afraid of fighting would only lead to more losses than being defeated. Just as Elder Gong said, Chi Zihuan said, and then pointed out 3 people. Qi Xinshi, who was about to turn 24 years old, was a completely different lineage. Qi Ruda, who was already 23 years old, was a completely different lineage. The remaining person was naturally the eldest son of the Qi family and his biological son. Qi Xinshi silently stepped out and stood beside his 2 cousins, looking at each other with the 3 Gong family members. He had expected this visit to spar. 2 days ago, on the first day of February, at Shen time. It was also these 4 who visited the Whirlpool sect and asked for a fight. The Whirlpool sect sent out the senior brother Ding Yeshi, who had the 2nd meridian of the Pure One, the 2nd brother Wen Hongzhen, who had reached the peak of the Pure One, and Gao Jingsha, who had reached the 10 paths of the Pure One. As a result, the Gong family only sent out 1 person, who won 3 games in a row. It is said that this person is not the strongest of the 3. On that day, the head of the Whirlpool sect, Jie Xianlang, admitted defeat and made it clear that the people of the Whirlpool sect would stay away from the Gong family in the future. Uncle Yuan, I'll go first this time, the middle-sized one among the 3 people of the Gong family said, and then stepped out. I am Gong Xian, who has reached the age of adulthood and has the 3 meridians of the Pure One. He bowed slightly to the people of the Qi family, and then extended his hand to invite them to fight. Please teach me. The 3 meridians of the Pure One surpassed all the young generation of the Qi family. Without the need for the patriarch to speak, Qi Xinshi, who had the highest cultivation, took off his outer robe, revealing a sleeveless outfit, and put it on without hesitation. There was no red tape. In the drizzle, the 2 men bowed to each other and started fighting immediately. The fight went smoothly, or too dull. Gong Xian's cultivation was slightly higher, and his movements were obviously more flexible and faster than his opponent. But his claws or palm attacks on Qi Xinshi only left a few white marks at most. The 2 of them went back and forth, and soon more than 10 rounds passed. It's worthy of the iron armor skill. Gong Xian took a few steps away and praised. Even if you change to an iron armor, it would be rotten after being hit by so many blows from me, he said it leisurely, with a condescending tone. Qi Xinshi didn't want to waste words, and started to attack, but suddenly pain appeared between his eyebrows. Mr. Qi, do you feel uncomfortable in your arms? Gong Xian smiled with a raised corner of his mouth. As he said that, he actually put one hand behind his back. Qi Xinshi couldn't bear the humiliation, and the veins on his forehead bulged. He forced to move. But it was still difficult for him to raise his hand. 3rd brother, why don't you use iron casting? Qi Xinshi reminded him in a hurry. Iron casting is a killing method of the Qi family's iron armor skill, which can strengthen the bones and flesh below the skin with true Qi. Once used, it can make the flesh and blood body several times stronger than the iron armor, enough to fight against a black iron blade for a short time. Qi Xinshi charged silently without replying. Only Qi Ruda beside him whispered back with a serious look, I'm afraid your 3rd brother has used it a long time ago. The battle in the field resumed. However, Qi Xinshi, who could not use his hands flexibly, fell into an absolute disadvantage. After 3 rounds, he was unable to move normally due to severe pain and was forced to admit defeat. It's my turn. Qi Ruda threw down 3 words and took off his clothes to fight. After 11 rounds, he was bleeding from the corners of his mouth and also lost. There was still 1 person left in the Qi family. Qi Xinshi, 19 years old, has reached the peak of cultivation. Please teach me. February 5th. Sunny day, a little dusty. A quarter before 3 p.m., many curious people were waiting in front of the Li mansion. A quarter of an hour later, the bell and drum tower sounded the time announcement. The 4 figures of the Gong family just turned the corner. Jinhei's martial spirit is flourishing, and our Gong family is as far away as Tongguang, and it is also well known. Facing Li Heming, Guang Mingyun's posture was obviously lower, and his smile was more humble. However, the strong nature in his bones remained unchanged. Sincerely asked Mr. He to allow the younger generations to learn from each other and improve themselves. After a while, the Li family also pointed out 3 people. The leader was naturally Li Shenji, the eldest son of the 4 veins. Half an hour later, the 4 people of the Gong family left without any harm. The Li family announced that they would close the door to visitors that day, February 7th, the solar term Jings. Jings, the beginning of the Mao month, is divided into the middle of spring, and the hexagram is in the Zhen position. All things come from Zhen, which is a sign of birth. Last night, the spring thunder sounded, awakening all the insects that hibernated. By the afternoon, Jinhae City was still covered with dark clouds. Although the temperature has risen further, there are few pedestrians on the street. Even if the shops are operating as usual, the managers and clerks seem absent-minded. Everyone's mind is on the southwest corner of the city. At 3 p.m., accompanied by the Quan and Lu families, the 4 people of the Gong family arrived at the gate of the Hong mansion on time and met Hong Ming and Chiu De, who were waiting here early. No tea was served, no courtesy. Hong Ming was even too lazy to greet Gong Mingyan. He just waved his hand and went directly to the martial arts field. Unlike usual, the martial arts field of the Hong mansion today was crowded with hundreds of people, and it was very noisy. But as soon as the Gong family arrived, the noise stopped immediately. All the people of the Hong family were there, needless to say. Around the training ground, Ding Yashi and Gao Jingsha from the Whirlpool Gate, Qi Xinqi and several of his brothers from the Qi family, Li Shenji and his people from the Li family, and even Kui Yudeng, Zhang Fuqiu and others were all in line. However, among the hundreds of people, these young people at the top did not even deserve a seat. Guang Mingyan glanced around, his eyes first cast to the center. There were 2 rows of high chairs there, and as expected, those who were qualified to sit were the heads of the 3 families and senior officials, the city defender Zhang Zhen, the co-governor Ren Yuanlong, the military supervisor Gong Zhenxi, the master craftsman Wen Hongwen and other leaders of Jinhae. The 3 families from Tongguang and Yukon cities originally came from money. But now, it is not only a matter of Hongdao Mountain's wealth, but also related to the face of these 3 cities. Guang Mingyan was elected by the clan to lead the team, so he naturally would not be stage frightened. He, Quan Keihong and Lu Yiru stepped forward and greeted everyone in a dignified manner. We are here only to compete, it's still 3 against 3, according to the limit of the Xianjiao list, anyone under the age of 24 can compete, there are no other rules. With Lord Hong and Lord He here, there will be no accidents and a mere competition among the juniors. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.